Chapter 884. Dongbo Shuang brought Dongbo Yu with him. In an instant they arrived above the Black Fog Sea. Currently, Dongbo Qingyao was in charge of everything in the emperor residence. Snow Eagle? Jing Qiu, who was invited out of the grotto heaven by her daughter, looked at Dongbo Shuang. She was overjoyed, and all the worries in her heart disappeared. Dongbo Shuang exchanged glances with his wife. Dongbo Yu and Dongbo Qingyao exchanged glances as well. Dongbo Qingyao said, "Father, mother, continue chatting. Little brother and I will prepare some food." With that, the siblings left. Only the husband and wife were left in the hall. "I'm back," Dongbo Shuang said softly. "My luck is good. I will be able to get my hands on the treasures I want very quickly. Hence, I came back to take a look." Jing Qiu walked over. "Let's go out for a walk." Amen. The husband and wife walked within the Dongbo Emperor residence. They held hands, and everything seemed peaceful. They had cultivated for a long time. Their emotions were naturally hidden deep in their hearts. Back then, you insisted on going out and traveling through the primal chaos void. You Qingyao and I were very worried, but we couldn't persuade you, Jing Qiu said. "You know my temper." Dongbo Shuang smiled. "It's good that you're back," Jing Qiu said. "How's your cultivation?" Dongbo Shuang asked. "Tell me about it." The husband and wife began discussing the various problems in their cultivation. The current Dongbo Shuang's realm was much higher than before. He was even comparable to the Sword Master back in his hometown Cosmos. Although the Sword Master was at the primal chaos realm back then, in terms of knowledge, the current Dongbo Shuang was much more knowledgeable. After all, he had read all the scriptures in the Great Void Heaven Temple's Myriad Hall. He had also read all the scriptures collected by Emperor Juyun. His guidance often touched Jing Qiu. "I need a portion of Scarlet Cloud Pomegranate Core. Those who have it can discuss it in detail." Dongbo Shuang also sent out a message within the Great Void Heaven Temple. At the same time, he also sent out a request to purchase a portion of Scarlet Cloud Pomegranate Core from the 7-star Oceanic Pavilion. Of course, Dongbo Shuang had always concealed his identity. Others only knew that it was a request from the Great Void Heaven Temple. "I hope I can get it as soon as possible," Dongbo Shuang thought to himself. Because Yuer had already transcended, he only needed to prepare a portion of Scarlet Cloud Pomegranate Core for his wife. His harvest from Emperor Juyun's treasure was enough. The only problem now was that there had to be Scarlet Cloud Pomegranate Cores to sell. A precious treasure worth around 6,000 Origin World Stones. This kind of precious treasure that was nurtured was extremely rare. It wasn't something that could be bought just because one wanted to. It would be very difficult to find it in the Great Void Heaven Temple. The 7-star Oceanic Pavilion was a superpower that engaged in trading. Once the news was sent out, they should be able to find a Scarlet Cloud Pomegranate Core after some time. The first choice is the Scarlet Cloud Pomegranate Core. Since I can't find it, I can only thicken my face and ask Forefather Tianyu to help me find it. If I really can't find it, I'll just settle for the next best thing and choose other materials that can aid in cultivation. Dongbo Shuang thought. Something of a higher grade than the Scarlet Cloud Pomegranate Core? There was one. That was the Eternal Heart, or Origin World Fruit, that could allow one to transcend directly. But those were things that Cosmos gods could hardly obtain. For instance, for the sake of an Eternal Heart, Blade Emperor and Wu Zhu had teamed up to kill a Cosmos god. Blade Emperor and Wu Zhu were both ranked at the 2nd level of Final Realm existences. Hence, even with his current strength, Dongbo Shuang did not dare to have any extravagant hopes. Scarlet Cloud Pomegranate Core was already good enough. "Oh, let me try again." Jing Qiu discovered that her husband would often point out problems and cultivation methods from different perspectives. Time after time, it would stimulate her, igniting the impulse to cultivate in Jing Qiu once again. "Jing Qiu." Dongbo Shuang flipped his hand. He took out a total of 100 Origin World rocks. Looking at these rocks that were suffused with strange colors, Jing Qiu felt an intense impulse in her soul. She was starving to the point where she could barely suppress it. There's no need to suppress the impulse in your soul. Just let your soul absorb the energy instinctively, Dongbo Shuang said. Take one into your body and slowly absorb it. After absorbing one, take the next. Jingqiu did not reject, because she absolutely believed in her husband. Every single origin world rock that entered her body would naturally be absorbed by her soul, causing Jingqiu to feel intoxicated. This feeling was wonderful. She spent a total of 3 days or so before she finished consuming the 100 origin world rocks. It was mainly because her soul was slightly weaker, and it took a long time for her to consume them. Dongbo Shuang watched from the side. Ever since he started cultivating, he had never tasted the taste of origin world rocks. How is it? Dongbo Shuang waited for his wife to finish absorbing the 100 origin world rocks before asking. My soul has become much stronger and more stable. Jingqiu felt startled. It should be able to last at least 500 million years longer than before. Furthermore, the feeling of my soul is very wonderful now, and the effect of my cultivation should be great too. Dongbo Shuang nodded. Letting stage 4 world deities consume origin world rocks was a very extravagant matter, because origin world rocks were useful even to cosmos gods. The reason why Dongbo Shuang let his wife consume it was because the origin world rock was relatively gentle, and it was the most comprehensive to the soul. His wife's lifespan would be extended. You should cultivate first and see if you can transcend in one fell swoop. Dongbo Shuang said. If not. After that, there was still the scarlet cloud pomegranate core, which had a much better effect in cultivation. The scarlet cloud pomegranate core was worth 6,000 origin world rocks, but to a stage 4 world deity, its effect was comparable to consuming more than 100,000 origin world rocks. It was the most heaven-defying cultivation item, known to be a stage 4 world deity. 6,000 origin world rocks. Some of the weaker primal chaos giants would most likely have to sell all their treasures for it. As he helped his wife, Dongbo Shuang was also sorting out his comprehension of cultivation and writing down many absolute arts. The absolute arts he wrote down were from the world deity realm, all the way to the void god realm. What realm did the current Dongbo Shuang reach? In terms of strength, he was not any weaker than Ancestor Devil back in his hometown cosmos. In terms of horizons, he had far surpassed them. Dongbo Shuang had even created an absolute art like that fish dragon kill. Currently, he merely needed absolute arts at the world deity and true god realm, and he could casually create them. In terms of power, they were much stronger than Luminous Sun and Extreme Annihilation Mysterious Body. Some were even stronger than Ancestor Devil's Myriad Devil True Body. Naturally, after Ancestor Devil entered the Great Void Heaven Temple, his current Myriad Devil True Body had become even more amazing. But the Myriad Devil True Body he left behind in his hometown cosmos was no longer placed in the eyes of the current Dongbo Shuang. After all, he usually cultivated the less than 13 apocalyptic swords, plate ripple diagram, dark world, and other cosmos-ranked absolute arts. Even though there were only 2 styles of dark world, these 2 styles were indeed cosmos-ranked absolute arts. It was just that he could not create the subsequent styles. Dongbo Shuang was doing this purely for the sake of the juniors in his hometown. Even though Sword Master and Ancestor Devil had become more amazing after entering the Great Void Heaven Temple, they did not return. This time, Dongbo Shuang came back to sort out the laws and profound mysteries, and create many absolute arts, so as to guide everyone in their cultivation. In just half a month, Dongbo Shuang had easily written down 28 absolute arts, and the majority of them were stronger than the Myriad Devil True Body. And the grand banquet held in the monarch residence had finally arrived. As it was not a large-scale invitation, there were not many who were qualified to participate in the banquet. Only Monarch Green, Purgatory Ruler, Pang Yi, Primal Master, Temporal Island Lord, Abyss Primogenitor and other rulers, as well as Paragon Huacheng, Senior Brother Huiming, Chihua Laozu and some others who were close to Dongbo Shuang. Of course, Dongbo Yu, Dongbo Qingyao and some other good friends were also invited. Star. Chapter 885. Something huge happened during the banquet hosted by Dongbo Shuang. Primal Master had broken through to the Void God realm. Congratulations, congratulations. Congratulations, Brother Primal. Who would have thought that you have taken this step too? Abyss Primogenitor, Temporal Island Lord. Empress Qianhe, Purgatory Ruler, Monarch Green, Pang Yi and the others were all congratulating Primal Master. The soul of Primal Master had transformed. His aura had become much more vast. He looked at Dongbua Shuiying and immediately bowed. It is all thanks to Brother Dongbua. If not for Brother Dongbua's guidance, I really do not know when I would have broken through. I have merely explained a little. Primal Master, the reason why you could break through is because of your previous accumulations. Dongbua Shuiying said. Dongbua, Monarch Green could not help but ask. You have only explained half of what you said regarding the void. I have merely gained some insights. I will speak, and you should listen. Dongbua Shuiying continued. Monarch Green listened attentively. During this banquet, Dongbua Shuiying was being questioned by a group of rulers. Helplessly, Dongbua Shuiying specialized in ripple, slaughter, and mirage. He also had a unique understanding of the void. As for other aspects, because he had read through all the books in the Great Void Heaven Temple and Emperor Jiyun's books, Dongbua Shuiying was able to express some simple views. But these were treasures to the rulers who could only cultivate within the cosmos. They felt as though a door had opened in front of them. After the banquet, Dongbua Shuiying accompanied his wife Jingqiu on one side, doing his best to guide her. On the other side, he continued creating absolute arts. In the blink of an eye, more than 1,000 years had passed. Snow Eagle, you actually wrote so many absolute arts? Bloodshed God Emperor was flipping through many books within the library. He could not help but praise. All of them have reached the Void God realm. I've also created several absolute arts, but compared to this one of yours, they are still lacking. So many ultimate arts will be of great help to countless cultivators in the universe. Some of them were written by me, and some of them were obtained by chance, Dongbua Shuiying said. In the sacred world, on the 9-cloud great land, he had battled and killed before. For example, after the Valley Master of the Blaze Valley died in battle, he brought along many absolute art manuals with him, all of which belonged to the Blaze Valley. In the Sovereign Lord's treasure trove, he had also forced his enemies to hand over all their treasures. All the treasures naturally included absolute art manuals. There were simply too many manuals. Some were about the laws of profound mysteries, and some were about other systems. Dongbua Shuiying placed these books into the library as well. In the beginning, I was filled with inspiration, and I wrote down a bunch of ultimate techniques. However, I've written down almost all of my insights over the long years, so it's very difficult to write them down again. Dongbua Shuiying shook his head. Master, help me take a look at these manuals. Also, help me come up with some ideas on how to impart them to the cultivators. Alright, wait till I'm done. I'll help you come up with some ideas. Bloodblade was completely engrossed in it. The more he read, the more he sighed. This disciple of his had already surpassed him. Jia. Dongbua Shuiying glanced at Bloodblade, who was immersed in reading. He then pushed open the door of the library and walked into the courtyard. Through the courtyard, he could see his wife Jingqiu, who was currently practicing her sword. The sword light emitted a cold aura. The region where Jingqiu was practicing her sword technique was completely covered in frost. She hasn't transcended yet. Dongbua Shuiying shook his head. It seems that my guidance and 100 origin world rocks aren't enough. I still need the Scarlet Cloud pomegranate core. It's a pity that I haven't found one until now. A rare treasure like the Scarlet Cloud pomegranate core. There were very few of them in the entire 5 great sacred worlds and primal chaos void. Those who owned a Scarlet Cloud pomegranate core might be in closed-door cultivation. Naturally, they did not know that Shuiying wanted to purchase a Scarlet Cloud pomegranate core. Let's wait. Just 1,000 years is too short to primal chaos realm giants and cosmos gods. Dongbua Shuiying thought. If I can't find any news about the Scarlet Cloud pomegranate core in 100 million years, I'll thicken my face and ask Forefather Tian Yu for help. Forefather Tian Yu was ultimately a palace master. Unless necessary, Dongbua Shuiying was not willing to ask Forefather for help. 100 million years was a more suitable period. If he could not find it after such a long period, it would be hard for him to find it normally. It would be easier to find it if he asked Forefather for help given his status. Amen. Dongbui Ying's expression suddenly changed. He flipped his hand, causing a communication talisman to appear. Suddenly, a piece of news came from within the talisman. 9 Cloud Great Land. Devil Sword Guest is being pursued by Chiwu Palace Master. His life is hanging by a thread. Mission reward: 3 million contribution points. This news contained the current location of Devil Sword Guest. A message asking for help? Dongbui Ying was startled. On the 9 Cloud Great Land, the 3 great sacred worlds were fighting with the 2 great religions, of which the 3 great sacred worlds were helping and supporting one another. Clearly, the internal intelligence system of the Great Void Heaven Temple had determined that Dongbui Ying was on the 9 Cloud Great Land. Hence, this piece of news was sent to him. Devil Sword Guest, a commander from the Blade Emperor City. He is an expert who has crossed through the 5th level Star Pagoda. Dongbui Ying thought. Chiwu Palace Master is a famous expert from the ancient sacred religion. He specializes in using poison and is at the 5th level Star Pagoda strength. Devil Sword Guest is actually being pursued to the point of asking for help? Accept it. Dongbui Ying immediately accepted the mission. At the same time, he sent a message over. I am currently in closed-door cultivation, and am close to where they are fighting. I should be able to reach in the time taken to brew a cup of tea. This piece of news was first obtained by the internal intelligence system of the Great Void Heaven Temple. It was slightly modified before being sent to Devil Sword Guest. 9 Cloud Great Land. Within one of the mountain forests there was a tribe that lived here. They cultivated, resisting all sorts of dangers with great difficulty to survive until now. Haha, come attack me again. On a piece of empty land within the tribe, a green-robed male was currently teaching a group of young people. These young people were all transcendents. There were occasionally deities, but that green-robed male was already a world deity. Suddenly, hoo-hoo, 2 figures flashed in the sky above the mountain forest. Devil Sword Guest, you can't escape. A cold voice reverberated in the sky. At the same time, an unseen aura naturally spread out. It swept across the countless trees in the mountain forest, and also this tribe. The trees in the mountain forest instantly lost their life force. They were all withered, and some trees even drooped down. And the few thousand tribesmen of that tribe did not move at all. They maintained their original appearance, though their eyes were completely dim. They no longer had any spirituality. Clearly in an instant, these few thousand tribesmen had all died. This was merely the remnant ripple of the poisonous fog released by Chiwu Palace Master. What should I do? Devil Sword Guest was a cold young man with a black sword on his back. He was doing his best to escape, yet Chiwu Palace Master was chasing after him by following the traces left in the void. This caused despair to rise in Devil Sword Guest's heart. I've sought help from the Blade Emperor City. General has also been sent to the 9 Cloud Great Land through an ultra-long distance. But he is too far away from where I am. Even if we travel through the time-space tunnel, it will take close to a day. Devil Sword Guest felt sullen. He was first plotted against and poisoned before being chased after. He had to seek help from his own superpower. But ultra-long distance teleportation would have some deviation. For a primal chaos expert to travel for a day, this deviation was very normal considering how far the 9 Cloud Great Land was from the Eastern Unicorn Sacred World. A day. How can I survive for a day? Devil Sword Guest was anxious. Because he was too anxious. That was why he sought help through the internal system of the 3 great holy grounds. This message was immediately sent to all those who could save him, like the primal chaos giants, or some 5th level Star Pagoda experts on the 9 Cloud Great Land. What? Devil Sword Guest, who was in despair, suddenly revealed a joyous look, because he had just received a piece of news from the Great Void Heaven Temple. After the time taken to brew a cup of tea, an expert from the Great Void Heaven Temple would arrive at Devil Sword Guest's location. To Devil Sword Guest, he was confident of surviving for the time taken to brew a cup of tea. Chapter 886. Jing Qiu. I'll be going out for a walk. I'll be back soon. Dongbui Ying said. Jing Qiu continued executing her sword technique. She smiled at her husband. Ever since her husband returned, she was in a good mood. In the future, with her husband accompanying her. Even if she could not transcend and die, she was willing. She smiled, all right. Following that, she took a step. Space distorted. Dongbua Shuang entered the distorted space and disappeared from the vicinity. When he appeared again, he was already at the nine-cloud great land. To him who grasped the ultra-long distance teleportation technique, the vast primal chaos void, and the 5 great sacred worlds could be reached in an instant. This made Dongbua Shuang sigh. The #1 expert in the void, Emperor Juyin, who surpassed the void primogenitor, ultimately failed to complete the 4-diagram absolute art. What kind of absolute art was it? At the level of Emperor Juyin, the 4th diagram was just an incomplete one. One had to know that the cavern-dwelling array he constructed was something that no one could unravel over the long years. Dongbua Shuang stood in midair. He looked up at the sun in the sky and determined his current location. There is a slight deviation. If I were to use the time-space tunnel, I would most likely need 4 hours to reach. Dongbua Shuang took another step. Space distorted as he directly penetrated through. He arrived at a grassland that was extremely close to Devil Sword Guest. I am very close. If I am willing, I can reach very quickly. Dongbua Shuang felt helpless. But for me to reach in the time taken to brew a cup of tea is already very coincidental. Dongbua Shuang did not dare to reveal too much of himself, because there were some primal chaos giants who grasped the ultra-long distance teleportation technique. But Dongbua Shuang had never heard of someone at the Unity Realm who could do so. Maybe his horizons were not broad enough? But he was after all an inner hall elder of the Great Void Heaven Temple. Since he had never heard of such a technique, it was best for him to keep this a secret. When he became a primal chaos giant, no one would suspect him then. They would naturally think that Dongbua Shuang had cultivated the ancient cultivation system. Dongbua Shuang staggered for the time it took to brew a cup of tea, before he finally found the demon swordsman, based on the information provided by him. Demon swordsman, no matter how much you struggle, it's useless. This time you're dead. Chi Wu Palace Master was dressed in a purple robe. His long and narrow eyes were filled with a faint mist. Once again he controlled from a distance. In the sky around Demon Swordsman, a formation that covered the sky and covered the sun immediately appeared. On the other hand, the Demon Swordsman was desperately trying to escape through the void, occasionally pulling out the black sword on his back. After drawing the sword, he would put the black sword back into its sheath. Every time he unsheathed his sword, the power behind it was immense. Cough cough. Why aren't they here yet? Where are the experts from the Great Void Heaven Temple? The demon swordsman was getting anxious. Oh, Chi Wu Palace Master? A cold voice rang out. A white-robed young man tore through the void and appeared. This time, Dongbua Shuang did not hide his appearance, because he usually stayed in his home cosmos. He would only come out if there was something important. Since he would not be staying in the nine-cloud great land for long, there was naturally no need for him to conceal his identity. Chi Wu Palace Master's expression changed. Dongbua Shuang? Why is he so fast? Even if Inquisitive Sky Hall Master of the Great Void Heaven Temple personally sent him over, given the distance, there should be a huge deviation. Humph. A cold glint flashed in the eyes of Dongbua Shuang. Hua hua hua. Layers of dark world descended, instantly enveloping the distant Chi Wu Palace Master. The layers of dark world descended from the illusory into reality. Chi Wu Palace Master could not even dodge in time. Not good. Chi Wu Palace Master roared fiercely. He transformed into a lizard-like mutated beast that was covered in scales. Pung, 120 layers of dark world exploded at the same time. The true body of Chi Wu Palace Master let out a painful roar. His body was filled with savage wounds from the explosion, but he was still alive. Chi Wu Palace Master's violet eyes glanced at Dongbua Shuang. Without hesitation, he tore through the void and began escaping. How long has this Dongbua Shuang cultivated for? He is actually able to injure a body that I modified using countless hex poisons? Sensing danger, Chi Wu Palace Master immediately chose to escape. Escape? Dongbua Shuang immediately chased after him through the void. Escaping in front of a void walker that grasped ultra-long distance teleportation? If he really escaped, that would be a great humiliation. Demon Sword Guest heaved a sigh of relief. He immediately descended to the ground and sat down cross-legged. He began to expel the poison. Previously, he was constantly being chased and was unable to spend too much effort to expel the poison. Now the hex poison in his body was being expelled continuously. How did Wu Zhu create the witchcraft system? Even his poison is so powerful? Demon Sword Guest muttered. Before the birth of the witchcraft system, there were people who used poison. However, the usage of poison was not as common and powerful as it is now. When the voodoo ancestor was born, the system of witchcraft that he created had already reached an unimaginable level. Formations, weapons refinement, voodoo poison puppets. He had reached an extremely high level in all of these. The other systems that use poison immediately borrowed the usage of hex poisons from the witchcraft system, causing the name hex poisons to become very common. Some of the weaker cultivators did not really understand what hex poisons meant, and would directly call those who researched poison hex poisons. Who? Demon Sword Guest opened his mouth and spat out a gray mist which dissipated with the wind. Demon Sword Guest's complexion became much better. Although there were still remnants of poison in his body, it was no longer a problem. South Dongbua Shui Ying's figure appeared from the void. Brother Dongbua. Demon Sword Guest hurriedly stood up and said with gratitude, "This time, it's all thanks to Brother Dongbua. Otherwise, this life of mine would have died in the hands of that Chiwu Palace Master. This time, I fell into his trap. In the future, I will definitely find an opportunity to get rid of him." Chiwu Palace Master is already dead, Dongbua Shuang said. Demon Sword Guest was startled. He died. He was too familiar with Chiwu Palace Master. This was an extremely sinister expert from the ancient sacred religion, with an extremely strong life force. He was a hex cultivator, and also an ancient cultivator. He had many survival methods. He thought that the reason why Dongbua Shuang returned so quickly was because Chiwu Palace Master had escaped. Who would have thought that he was killed? How long had it been? He, Demon Sword Guest, was able to survive for so long in the hands of Chiwu Palace Master, even though he was poisoned. Isn't he too strong? Demon Sword Guest did not dare believe it. In just a short while a famous great expert like Chiwu Palace Master died just like that? He borrowed external force. Dongbua Shuang explained. He indeed relied on external force. Chiwu Palace Master's survival methods were too formidable. If he relied on his own strength, he would have to chase for half a day before killing the other party. Dongbua Shuang did not wish to waste any time. Hence, he used the Black Gourd to assist him, with the Black Gourd fireball that reached the 6th level Star Pagoda power. In addition to his own strength, the Plate Ripple Diagram Domain Suppression, and the multi-layered Dark World, he was able to kill Chiwu Palace Master quickly. In a life-and-death battle, there is no need to rely on external force. Demon Sword Guest added, I truly admire Brother Dongbua's strength. This time, Brother Dongbua has saved my life again. Go, let's go to my residence. It is very close to here, and I'll entertain Brother Dongbua well. Brother Dongbua, don't reject me. Rejecting me is equivalent to looking down on me. Alright. Dongbua Shuang immediately agreed when he saw the other party being so passionate. The two of them immediately tore through the void. At that moment. Stop. Dongbua Shuang and Demon Sword Guest appeared from the void. Demon Sword Guest looked at Dongbua Shuang with puzzlement. Brother Dongbua, what happened? Dongbua Shuang was frowning as he looked downwards. His expression was ugly. Chapter 887. There was a tribe living in the valley below. There were tens of thousands of living beings in the tribe. There were 3 true gods, and more than 1,000 world deities. The other tens of thousands of people were either deities or transcendents. This was an extremely ordinary tribe on the 9-cloud great land. But at this moment, the entire tribe was deathly silent. All living beings were either standing, lying down, or sitting there grabbing onto roasted meat. None of them were injured on the surface, yet their eyes were completely dim. Their souls had been extinguished. Dongbua Shuang was extremely sensitive to his surroundings. He could sense the strands of hex poison aura in the surroundings. It was the hex poison that Chi Wu Palace Master specialized in. Although it was only a very weak aura, even a true god hegemon would instantly perish. If Chi Wu Palace Master deliberately released the hex poison, most void gods at the Unity Realm could not survive against it. Brother Dongbua, are you pitying them? Devil Sword Guest looked downwards before casually chuckling. It's all because Chi Wu Palace Master did not control his hex poison aura when he acted against me. Yet it affected this tribe. This is the sorrow of the weak. Just a touch and they all died. But now that Chi Wu Palace Master is dead, this tribe can be considered to have taken revenge. Dongbua Shuang looked at the current smile of Devil Sword Guest. He felt slightly uncomfortable. Who? Dongbua Shuang could still sense the traces of battle between both parties in the void. Following along the traces, he said, "Let us go to another location to have a look." Saying that, he brought Devil Sword Guest and teleported. At another location, it was a village living by the lakeside. This village was hidden amidst the lush weeds. It could not be seen from afar. This peaceful and tranquil village had similarly lost its aura of life. Dongbua Shuang looked downwards coldly. This is also a place affected by the battle. Devil Sword Guest shook his head. To Chi Wu Palace Master, he doesn't care about their lives. Who? Dongbua Shuang brought Devil Sword Guest along the traces left behind in the void, and headed to another location. At another location, it was another assembly region affected by the battle. He continued to look around. The demon swordsman said at first, but he soon frowned in dissatisfaction. What is this elder Dongbua Shuang of the Great Void Heaven Temple trying to do? Teleport me all the way and look at the areas where the weak ants live. Humph. Firstly, Dongbua Shuang had saved his life. Secondly, the time Dongbua Shuang took to kill Chi Wu Palace Lord was too short, and his strength made him fearful. This caused the demon swordsman to suppress his dissatisfaction. Demon swordsman, Dongbua Shuang floated in the air, looking down at the tribe at the foot of the mountain. Don't you have anything to say? Say what? Demon swordsman laughed. Sigh, they indeed died pitifully. Chi Wu Palace Master is indeed ruthless enough. However, Chi Wu Palace Master has also died. For an upper echelon of the ancient sacred cult to die along with them, it is worth it. Worth it. Dongbua Shuang looked at Demon Swordsman. To the dead, everything is empty. Demon Swordsman frowned. Elder Dongbua, what is the meaning of this? Shuang said with a low voice. Chi Wu Palace Master is chasing after you. You have been escaping all the way. The world is so big, and there are many wilderness, forests and lakes. You can escape to many places, so why not avoid these tribes? Demon Swordsman and the rest were unable to tear open a spatial tunnel, and could only teleport short distances. Every time they teleported, they would be able to sense the situation at the other location. If you had avoided them slightly, the battle wouldn't have affected them. Dongbua Shuang asked. But you didn't do that. Demon Swordsman was startled. He frowned and had an ugly expression. Elder Dongbua, you did save me, but I also took out Origin World rocks. I believe that the Great Void Heaven Temple will reward you too. These are just some ants that were affected by the battle, and it is because of Chi Wu Palace Master. You are targeting me. Are you purposely trying to make things difficult for me? When Dongbua Shuang heard the word ants, he could not help but understand the other party's mentality. In this vast land, there are very few gathering areas. Dongbua Shuang continued. But when you fled, it seemed like you purposely passed by these gathering areas. Demon Swordsman's expression sank, and he laughed coldly. I was fleeing for my life, and I couldn't even protect myself. Why would I care about these ants? All right, I don't have the mood to talk to you anymore. Thank you for saving my life. Let's part ways from now on. South Demon Swordsman directly teleported away. Dongbua Shuang watched as Demon Swordsman disappeared. He didn't care about the lives of ants. Dongbua Shuang could guess that from the start, Demon Swordsman really didn't care about the lives of these tribes. If they died, then they died. He didn't care at all. But for so many tribes to be implicated, Demon Swordsman must have done it on purpose. He might have done it on purpose, because he hoped to encounter a great expert living in seclusion in a tribe. If Chi Wu Palace Master's hex poison aura affected the weak, If there was a true expert living in seclusion, he would definitely act to stop Qiwu Palace Master. At that time, he demon swordsman would have a chance to survive. Being weak is a sin, Dongbua Shuang muttered to himself. To the high and mighty demon swordsman, the weak were just ants. He truly didn't care. Although I pity them and feel anger towards demon swordsmen, I don't have any killing intent. Dongbua Shuang thought. Demon swordsman was a member of Blade Emperor City, 5 great sacred worlds. Although the 3 great sacred worlds had joined hands to fight against the 2 great religions, the 3 great sacred worlds weren't completely united. Firstly, the myriad ancient sacred world was ruled by Wu Zhu and Jie Zhu. Wu Zhu and Jie Zhu were ranked at the forefront of the final realm existences. They didn't really care about the Eastern Unicorn Sacred World and 7-Star Oceanic Sacred World. And the relationship between the Eastern Unicorn Sacred World and 7-Star Oceanic Sacred World was extremely good. Lord Locheng had only constructed a total of 6-star pagodas, 1 each for the 6 great holy grounds of 7-Star Oceanic Sacred World and Eastern Unicorn Sacred World. Naturally, only Ancestor Bone didn't obtain a star pagoda. One could see that Ancestor Bone was faintly being ostracized in Eastern Unicorn Sacred World. Thus, the relationship between the 6 great holy grounds of Eastern Unicorn Sacred World and 7-Star Oceanic Sacred World was extremely good. They were like a piece of iron, of which the strongest was Blade Emperor. Blade Emperor was comparable to Wu Zhu, Jie Zhu, and Ancestor Mother. Demon Swordsman is after all a core member of Blade Emperor City. I can kill those from the ancient sacred religion and the Ancestor Mother religion when I say so. I can't casually act against demon swordsmen. Just like how Dongbua Shuang was an inner hall elder of the Great Void Heaven Temple. Even if Blade Emperor City and other superpowers were infuriated with Dongbua Shuang, they would not casually act against him. Otherwise, they would be slapping the face of the Great Void Heaven Temple. If they truly became enemies, they would first report to the higher-ups and let the higher-ups of the opposing superpower punish them. Furthermore, deep in my heart, I only feel that Demon Swordsman is too cold and ruthless. I don't think he deserves to die. Dongbua Shuang sighed. This was the truth. Powerful cultivators had cultivated for an unknown number of billions of years. He, Dongbua Shuang, had cultivated for tens of billions of years, and was considered to be relatively young. Over the long years, many of his loved ones were no longer around. In the midst of cultivation, some had become extreme, cold, and ruthless. If the requirements for the actions of the cultivators were too high, more than half of the cultivators in the 3 great holy grounds would be pushed to the opposite side. If that happened, the sacred master of the ancient sacred religion would obtain victory very quickly. Fighting against the ancient sacred religion was the most important thing. The region ruled by the sacred master had to have absolute faith in him. This sort of faith was not like those in his hometown Cosmos that had a relatively free faith. It was also not the simple faith that came from the soul of the weak Ancestor Mother religion. Instead, it was an imprint on the soul. Absolute loyalty. For the sake of the sacred master, he could sacrifice his life. He could even sacrifice his loved ones and friends. He would no longer have any sense of self. This was something none of the more formidable cultivators were willing to accept. The Great Void Heaven Temple, Blade Emperor City, and other superpowers have their own rules. Demons who wantonly massacred others will be killed. And for someone like Demon Swordsman, he is merely a ripple, and is still far from breaking the rules. Dongbua Shuang shook his head. Even the final realm existences had set down strict rules for the sake of balancing the various parties. But it was still within the acceptable range for existences like Ancestor Devil. Dongbua Shuang continued teleporting. So. He teleported to many places, following the traces of void to check out other places that were affected. Qiwu Palace Master and Demon Swordsman had chased after them, but there were no survivors. Chapter 888. Dongbua Shuang was walking all over the 9-cloud Great Land. His domain was sufficiently vast, allowing him to observe the various scenes of gratitude and enmity. There were 2 huge tribes fighting each other, for the sake of a rare treasure that had just been born. There were also devils who massacred a few million sentient beings, in an assembly, just for the sake of cultivating a wicked secret technique. Amidst the corpses and the gathering of resentment, there was only a single devil sitting cross-legged. When Dongbua Shuang discovered this scene, as he walked along the spatial tunnel, he did not hesitate to use the plate ripple diagram to envelop the other party. Under the plate ripple diagram domain, that devil was panicking. He tried his best to move his hands, wanting to escape. But he who was barely at the second-level star pagoda strength could not retaliate at all in front of Dongbua Shuang. In the end, his body was suppressed to death by the ripples. Dongbua Shuang continued walking along the nine-cloud great land. Seeing all the scenes, Dongbua Shuang had many thoughts surging in his heart. A young master Fui? Young master, you are back? Void god? Young master has become a void god? Dongbua Shuang stood high in the sky looking down at a nation city. The highest status within this nation were Unity Realm experts. Those who could become void gods were considered to be part of the higher echelons of this nation. The return of a young man had caused an uproar in the entire clan. With a void god emerging in the clan, the status of the clan had greatly improved. Dongbua Shuang watched silently for a total of 3 days. He watched as this young master became one of the protector elders under the king. The status of the clan had greatly improved. The clan occupied a territory 10 times bigger than before, and the cultivation resources of the clansmen had greatly increased. A single person protecting an entire clan. Dongbua Shuang muttered softly. For the sake of treasures, for the sake of enmity, for the sake of cultivation, devils will kill when they are in a good mood, and when they are in a bad mood, they will still kill. The unluckiest would always be the weaklings. Even a strand of ripple from the battle between experts could easily kill them. If an expert is willing, one person can easily protect an entire clan. If we only seek to protect ourselves and watch the weak get massacred by the side, with the devils wreaking havoc, and the devour class cultivators wantonly devouring them, it is likely that all the weak cultivators in the primal chaos void and 5 great holy grounds will die very soon. Shuang muttered. All of them watched from the sidelines, and cared only for themselves. In the end, the weak were all killed. He walked around the place. He traveled in the 9-cloud great land for a total of 3 years. Space distorted. Dongbua Shuang took a step into the distorted void, and left the 9-cloud great land. Home universe. Dongbua Shuang appeared outside Dongbua Monarch Mansion in the Black Mist Sea. Looking at his own residence, his wife was drinking tea by herself. There was even a sharp divine sword placed on the table. Nowadays, Jing Qiu often practiced with the sword. Dongbo Yu Dongbo and Qing Yao were also in the mansion. They were training in some secret rooms. Dongbua Shuang's consciousness instantly covered every single part of his home cosmos. Material realm, dark abyss, deity world, countless living beings were under the observation of Dongbua Shuang. There were some he was familiar with, some were his close friends and relatives, and some were strangers. There were babbling children, youths who worked hard to cultivate since young, rich young masters who wandered around, white-haired old men and grannies. Naturally, other than these ordinary mortals, there were many cultivators. They were comprehending the profound mysteries of the laws of the world, and advancing on the path of cultivation. Nobody can think of destroying everything. Dongbua Shuang thought. He had been observing the 9-cloud great land for the past 3 years. He even deliberately followed the ripples and rushed over. He saw too many battles and scenes of entire tribes being destroyed. Some of them were already at the end of the battle when he arrived. Hence, when he returned to his hometown, he was instinctively worried that his hometown would meet with the same fate. Even though a cosmos was powerful, it could ultimately be destroyed. For instance, primal chaos realm giants could destroy an entire cosmos if they were slightly stronger. Danger was everywhere. Much less a cosmos, even the primitive ancient sacred world of the past was destroyed. Almost all living beings in that world were wiped out. Those with strength must stand out. Dongbua Shuang's eyes brightened. Even if the weak are guilty, it isn't a crime worthy of death. Because every expert has to grow up step by step from being weak. The weak need protection. And it must be the experts who stand out. Dongbua Shuang looked at the vast starry sky. His consciousness enveloped the countless living beings. If the experts don't stand out, who will? With strength comes responsibility. The responsibility to protect the weak. Dongbua Shuiying's heart realm was undergoing a transformation. In the past, he felt that it was not wrong to only care about one's own safety. But now his thinking had changed. He saw how Devil Sword Guest had casually taken a route when he escaped, causing the deaths of countless living beings. Devil Sword Guest did not even care about it. Dongbua Shuiying was moved. After 3 years of observation, his heart became firmer. He was even more certain of his understanding of himself. If the experts only cared about their own safety, the world would be finished. With strength came responsibility. He had to stand out. Perhaps my strength might be limited, but I can still shoulder a piece of the heavens. Although the area of this heavens might be small, it is enough to protect many living beings. Dongbua Shuang thought to himself. Wang, in the air above the black fog sea. Dongbua Shuang stood there looking at the starry sky. Gradually, his body started to emit a bright light. This was the light that originated from his soul. Gradually, a layer of golden robe condensed around his body. This robe was formed naturally from the light of his soul. There were countless patterns on the surface of the robe, containing supreme profundities. This robe was also known as a Dharma robe. It was the manifestation of supreme laws. This is, below in the monarch manner, Jingqiu, Dongbua Yu, Dongbua Qingyao, as well as Bloodblade, Qiu Qibai, Paragon Huacheng, and the others who were flipping through the books, could not help but raise their heads to look. Although they were obstructed by the buildings, they could still see that figure in the starry sky without needing to utilize any techniques. Wearing a Dharma robe, the surface of his body was emitting a warm light. The light wasn't dazzling, but it was everywhere. It shone into everyone's heart. Bloodblade, and the others could see it. Father, Dongbua Yu, Dongbua, Qingyao and the others could clearly see the appearance of that figure. This, Monarch Green Primal Master, Purgatory Ruler, Temporal Island Lord, and the others were in their own nests. Although they were separated by an unknown distance, they could still see that dazzling figure standing in the starry sky. Powerful existences, world deities, transcendence, ordinary mortals, and even the beasts. Every living being in the entire universe could see that figure in the starry sky. That figure seemed to be emitting boundless light, and was wearing a Dharma robe. The weaker one was, the harder it was for them to see Dongbua Shuiying's appearance. Dharma robe, boundless light. Bloodblade raised his head and muttered in shock. This is the 3rd level of the heart realm. My heart is the world? This was a legend. In the many epics of this universe, only 2 people had achieved this. One was the Sword Master, and the other was Ancestor Devil. And now there was finally a 3rd person who had achieved this. End of this chapter. Chapter 889. Bloodblade, Monarch Green, Primal Master, Pang Yi, and the others looked at the dazzling figure emitting light in the starry sky. They felt a myriad of emotions in their hearts. With their strength, they had long heard of this legend. Wearing a robe, the light is boundless, allowing all sentient beings to see that dazzling figure. But this was ultimately a legend, and none had seen it before. Today they saw it. All of them had cultivated for a long period, yet they were stuck at the 2nd level of the heart realm. They could not step into the 3rd level. One had to be without perplexity, worries, and fear, with an empty heart realm, pressing forward with an indomitable will, and a single thought. Only then could one reach the 1st level of heart realm, heart-like colored glass. Reaching this level was considered the most basic requirement for one to have some accomplishments in the laws and profound mysteries. When the heart was like a blade, all obstacles could be split apart by the heart. On the path of cultivation, nobody could change his heart. Reaching this 2nd level meant that one would have the potential to become an ultra-strong expert. Even Devour-class existences that did not have a high requirement on the heart realm, and even primal chaos realm giants could stop at this 2nd level. The 3rd level of heart realm was my heart as the world. When one comprehended this step, due to various reasons, existences like Ancestor Devil who worshipped the strong, and even constructed the Dark Abyss, causing countless demons to kill one another. Existences like Ancestor Devil had also reached the third level of Heart Realm. Voidwalker Gu Qi was not willing to be restricted. He was free and unrestrained, fleeing everywhere. He had also reached the third level of Heart Realm, and Dongbua Shuang wanted to shoulder the sky and protect the masses. He had also broken through this feeling. Dongbua Shuang looked at the robe and the light emitted by his body. With a thought, he retracted the light, and the robe disappeared. He looked into his consciousness and examined his soul. Currently, his soul was emitting a bright light that illuminated his entire consciousness. His soul was also wearing a layer of robe, greatly increasing the strength of his soul. Even the willpower contained within had become incredibly strong. Strictly speaking, previously, Dongbua Shui Ying's realm was sufficiently high. He was a Unity Realm expert, and his Tao of Mirage and other Taos had reached an extremely profound level. His Voidwalker lineage had also reached the 40th level. The strength of his soul was absolutely at the peak amongst Unity Realm experts. But because his Heart Realm had not broken through, the willpower emitted from his soul was not condensed enough, and its power was not strong enough. Now his mental state had changed. Although his understanding of the Tao and the lineage of Voidwalkers did not improve, his soul seemed to have gone from a loose state to a condensed state. His will was also condensed, and his might increased greatly. Even his heart power had greatly increased. In his mind, he pondered and deduced the profound mysteries, and his efficiency also increased rapidly. It was as if he was constantly eating some supplementary items to aid his cultivation. Jing Qiu. Dongbua Shuang looked down and saw his wife looking up. He took a step forward. Swoosh. Dongbua Shuang landed beside his wife Jing Qiu. At this time, Dongbua Yu, Dongbua Qingyao, and the others rushed over as well. Father, did you just reach the legendary third stage of the mental state? Brother Dongbua, Snow Eagle, Qi Qiubai, Paragon Huacheng, Qi Hua Laozu, and the others who were in the Empyrean residence could not conceal the shock in their hearts as they rushed over. Let alone them, even Bloodblade was very shocked. Bloodblade even personally asked, Snow Eagle, how did you break through your mental state? Is there any trick? Since God Emperor had spoken, the others did not dare to interrupt. Bloodblade was indeed puzzled, because he had yet to break through his mental state. How did you break through? Dongbua Shuang was stunned. It's mainly the understanding of the soul. I saw many weak beings dying from the shockwaves of experts. There were even some experts who would slaughter countless weak beings, just because they were angry. No matter how powerful these experts were, they were still weak. If the experts were to focus on their own safety, or they would wantonly slaughter others. With the addition of some Devour-class cultivators, how could the weak have any hope of survival? Dongbua Shuang carefully explained his understanding to his master. Bloodblade frowned as he listened. He understood everything, but it did not move him at all. In his eyes, even if the sky collapsed, there would be someone taller to hold it up. In the past, he was the strongest expert in the cosmos. When the Ancestor Mother religion invaded, he did his best to prevent the cosmos from being transformed. It was also for the sake of his race not being wiped out. But to protect the weak? Bloodblade questioned himself. He was just an ordinary void god. Above him were the Unity Realm, Primal Chaos Realm, and even the legendary Final Realm existences. Even if the sky collapsed, it would not be his turn. Occasionally, he would be willing to take pity on others. But if his cultivation could improve, he would not even blink even if a large group of weak beings died. As long as the entire race was not wiped out. So what if a group of them died? Dongbua Shuang saw this and said, Teacher, I've read through many books in the Great Void Heaven Temple. This heart realm improvement has to depend on one's own comprehension. It is useless no matter what others say. Amen. Bloodblade nodded. He believed that there were many ways to improve one's heart realm. Even Ancestor Devil could reach the third level of heart realm, and it was possible for him to do so too. Snow Eagle, you should not risk your life for the sake of the weak. That is too tiring, and you might even lose your life. Bloodblade said. Cultivators should be more cautious, and try to stay away from danger. Dongbo Shuang nodded with a smile. Teacher, I understand. Those with greater strength can shoulder more responsibilities. Those with lesser strength can shoulder less responsibilities. If you blindly send yourself to death, you might not even be able to protect yourself, much less others. It was useless to talk about a breakthrough in the heart realm. Just like telling others no perplexity, no worries, no fear. Empty the heart realm, move forward with indomitable will, and have one thought. Could it be that cultivators could easily reach the first level of the heart realm? Heart as colored glass? Ultimately, they had to temper themselves. Touching the heart realm was a change in their understanding of the world from the deepest level of their soul. It was useless even if it went against one's own heart. Because the moment it went against one's will, it would be hard for one's heart realm to maintain one thought. They could not even reach the first level of cultivation. They would instinctively reject it. Therefore, it was useless to say anything more. The books in the Great Void Heaven Temple did not have any descriptions, and only allowed cultivators to comprehend it themselves. A day later, after receiving a group of cultivator friends, Dongbo Shuang finally arrived at the primal chaos void outside the cosmos. During the previous day, many of the friends who came to visit him had come to seek enlightenment with pious sincerity. Dongbo Shuang had explained a little at the start, but he soon understood that it was useless no matter how much he said. In fact, the more he said, the more confused they would be. It would be terrible if their hearts broke down. Therefore, Dongbo Shuang decided not to say anything more, only saying that they needed to comprehend it themselves. Who? In the vast primal chaos void, the white-robed Dongbo Shuang stood there. It's time to give it a try. Let's see how much my strength has improved. After his breakthrough in the heart realm, he had not had the time to practice his moves. This was because the environment within the cosmos was relatively weak, and it was more suitable for mortals and transcendents. The stronger one was, the greater the influence they would have on the cosmos. Like those at the void god level, they would harm the cosmos, accelerating the aging of this epoch and eventually destroying it. Currently, Dongbo Ying's strength had reached the boundary of the primal chaos realm. If he were to practice some combat moves, even if he carefully isolated them, he would still harm the cosmos. Multi-layered dark world. With a thought, Dongbo Ying displayed this simplified secret technique that he created himself. Hua hua hua. In the distance, layers upon layers of the dark world appeared out of thin air. This dark world had as many as 600 layers of membranes. It caused these multi-layered dark world to descend into reality. At that moment, it frantically devoured the surrounding energy, causing the entire primal chaos void to surge violently. Furthermore, with a pung sound, all 600 layers of dark world were destroyed at the same time. This power continued stacking up, reaching a stage that startled Dongbo Shuang. This power is comparable to the Black Gourd Fireball. Strictly speaking, the improvement of his heart force had greatly increased his strength. He could barely be considered at the 6th level Star Pagoda strength. Previously, he could only unleash 120 layers. The moment his heart realm broke through, his heart force rapidly became stronger, allowing him to unleash a total of 600 layers. That was exactly 5 times. It was not much at all. It was indeed a coincidence. There's still the sky punishment edge. Dongbo Shuang began concentrating. A long time ago, when he was still in closed-door cultivation within the Great Void Heaven Temple, he had comprehended all sorts of profound mysteries within the second style of Dark World, the Sky Punishment Edge, with his talent in the Tao of Mirage. But until now he could not unleash it. Dongbo Shuang had flipped through many books left behind by Emperor Juyun, and vaguely deduced that it should be a problem with his heart realm. Even though he was 70 to 80% confident, he still had to test it out. Descend. With a thought, Dongbo Shuang attempted to unleash it. A new chapter began. He was currently sorting out the plot. There was only one chapter today. Chapter 890. Hong Long. There was a strand of light within the illusory world. It was condensed and pure. It seemed unremarkable, yet it was the core of the entire illusory world. In the blink of an eye, this strand of light abruptly became dazzling, turning into a dazzling blade. The entire illusory world dissipated, and this dazzling blade descended from the illusory world into reality. My heart is the heart of the world. When the heart of the world is angry, it will be the sky punishment. Dongbua Shueying completely understood the true meaning of this move. Sky punishment edge. In the past, even though he had comprehended all sorts of profound mysteries, he lacked the most core heart realm. Just like drawing a painting, even if one's technique was proficient, if one did not have the emotions that came from the heart, it would be hard to complete a great painting. The second style of Dark World, Sky Punishment Edge. Other than having to grasp all the profound mysteries within, one had to have a powerful heart realm to command everything. Only then would one be qualified to send down the sky punishment. This blade that descended from the void absorbed the surrounding energy before finally condensing it. The original surging primal chaos void had completely solidified, and the vast primal chaos energy had calmed down. The entire primal chaos void had become completely still. The sky punishment edge suppressed everything. It caused the originally operating laws within a certain region to be suppressed by the sky punishment edge. If one said that the 600 layers of Dark World relied on the stacking of quantity to induce a qualitative change, it would have a power comparable to primal chaos experts. And the sky punishment edge had a degree of profoundness that could match some primal chaos giant techniques. It was born as the sky punishment. See, the blade light instantly slashed out. It cut across billions of kilometers. Even Dongbua Shueying could not see the end of the blade light with his naked eyes. He could only rely on his perception of the void to determine the distance that the blade light slashed across. This move is even stronger than the 600 layers of Dark World. It is even slightly stronger than the fireball from the Black Gourd. Dongbua Shueying praised, "This isn't just powerful. Even the degree of profoundness is much higher. This is the true strength of a 6th-level Star Pagoda expert." He could not help but feel admiration for that fallen Dark World master. To be able to create such a move, it was indeed impressive. Even though the Black Gourd fireball was powerful, it was a little clumsy. Even if he were to control it himself, he would have to combine it with the plate ripple diagram. The plate ripple diagram would suppress the opponent while the Black Gourd fireball would deal the fatal blow. Only then could he swiftly kill someone at the level of Chiwu Palace Master. But Sky Punishment Edge was different. It descended from nothingness and could directly land beside the enemy. It was extremely difficult to resist. The weakness of the Lord of Darkness is that his self-protection is too weak. Dongbua Shueying thought. The Sky Punishment Edge was a purely offensive technique. Dark World Master had reached this level in offense, but his defense should be comparable to ordinary 5th-level Star Pagoda experts. Buzz! Dongbua Shueying thought. 3 gigantic illusory worlds appeared in the chaotic void in front of him, each of which had heavenly punishment blades brewing within them. Yes, using 3 heavenly punishment blades at the same time is my limit. Dongbua Shueying thought. Even though he had some energy remaining, it was insufficient to unleash the 4th Sky Punishment Blade. The power of the Sky Punishment Edge was great, but it consumed a lot of heart energy too. Primal Chaos Realm. Dongbua Shueying thought. As he unleashed the Sky Punishment Edge, he finally had a vague understanding of the final great realm of Void God, Primal Chaos Realm. It was extremely difficult to step into the Primal Chaos Realm from the Unity Realm. It was harder than stepping into the Void God realm from a true God. The biggest hurdle in the path of cultivation was stepping into the final realm from the Primal Chaos Realm. Next was stepping into the Primal Chaos Realm from the Unity Realm. Many 5th-level Star Pagoda experts were confused about what the Primal Chaos Realm was. But it was amazing for Dongbua Shueying to have some understanding of it. Primal Chaos. It contains endless possibilities. My illusory world could contain the Sky Punishment. It could similarly contain other possibilities. When everything is muddled, that would be Primal Chaos. Dongbua Shueying thought. Life. From nothing, one would cultivate step by step, becoming stronger and stronger. One would grasp more and more things, becoming more and more complex. But this complexity would become a hindrance to cultivation. That was why it would gradually converge into a complete law system, before finally fusing into one. But even if it was fusing into one would still reach a certain limit in the path of cultivation. Breakthrough again. One had to break through the limit, allowing oneself to be filled with endless possibilities. That was primal chaos. Only primal chaos could give birth to the most perfect cosmos. That was the final realm of cultivation. My Tao of Mirage has been condensed to the pinnacle, turning into the Mirage origin. Dongbua Shuang thought. To break through the Mirage origin and turn into primal chaos. He grasped the illusory world and formed the sky punishment. That was why he had a vague understanding of the primal chaos realm. But to truly take that step was too difficult. Perhaps the Void Walker system might be easier. Dongbua Shuang thought. If he wanted to break through in the laws and profound mystery system, he had to comprehend it thoroughly. Currently, he could not pry into the profoundness of the primal chaos realm in the Ripple and Slaughter Tao. He could see the Tao of Mirage that had the highest talent. But he knew that it was not something that could be achieved within a short period. On the contrary, he had reached the 40th level of the Void Walker system. One more step, and he would reach the 41st level, and that would be the primal chaos realm. The reason why he could reach the 40th level so quickly was due to the incomplete set of 4 diagrams absolute art left behind by Emperor Juyun. It was during the process of comprehending the first diagram that complemented the walker's hidden secret, allowing him to continuously break through as a Void Walker. I am currently comprehending the second diagram. Maybe I might be able to step into the primal chaos realm in the future with my Void Walker system. Dongbua Shuang thought. Let's return. Dongbua Shuang took a step before passing through the cosmos membrane and returning to the Black Fog Sea Monarch residence. In terms of strength, he could already fight against some of the weaker primal chaos giants. Heaven Weeping Sect Master was considered slightly more experienced and could get through the 7th level of Star Pagoda. There were also some weaker ones like the Devour-class primal chaos giants, who were stuck at the 6th level. Dongbua Shuang was currently standing at the same height as them. Such experts were rare even in the sacred world. They were absolutely giants of an area. There were so many inner hall elders in the Great Void Heaven Temple, yet none of them reached the 6th floor of Star Tower. One could see how high Dongbua Shuang's talent in the Tao of Mirage was. Of course, it was all thanks to Dark World Master for creating this absolute art. Time was merciless. In the blink of an eye, 80 million years had passed. Monarch Residence. A white-robed Dongbua Shuang sat there drinking wine. In the distance, Jing Qiu was currently practicing her sword techniques. These were all sword techniques that Dongbua Shuang had collected from the outside world. Some of them even contained some pointers from the seniors. Jing Qiu naturally loved to practice these formidable sword techniques. It's a pity that I can't transcend. Dongbua Shuang felt a faint pressure. So what if he was strong? Even though he grasped the ultra-long distance teleportation and saw a higher world, even though he comprehended the my heart as the world, and was able to display the sky punishment edge, allowing him to stand amongst the true giants of the 5 great sacred worlds. None of these could compare to his desire for his wife to transcend. Why can't I find the Scarlet Cloud Pomegranate Core? Dongbua Shuang was slightly anxious. I'll wait for a few more days. If I really can't find it, I can only thicken my face and ask Forefather for help. Forefather was after all a cosmos god. Unless it was absolutely necessary, Dongbua Shuang was not willing to ask for help from a cosmos god. Elder Dongbua, the Eastern Unicorn Sacred World's Chumu City's Eastern Unicorn Hall, has a Scarlet Cloud Pomegranate Core for exchange. A message came through the communication talisman. Dongbua Shuang could not help but reveal a joyous look. He was so excited that he could not help but crush the wine cup in his hand. This caused Jing Qiu, who was practicing her sword in the distance, to stop. She turned towards her husband in bewilderment. How strong was her husband? Why could he not control his strength and crush the wine cup? Snow Eagle, what's wrong? Jing Qiu asked. What happened? Haha, right, a joyous matter has happened. A very joyous matter. Dongbua Shuang laughed. I'll immediately go out for a trip. Wait for me. When I return, you will know. Chapter 891. Dongbua Shuang did not hesitate. He immediately flew into the sky, causing the void above to distort. Dongbua Shuang entered it and disappeared. In the next instant, in the distant eastern unicorn sacred world of the 5 great sacred worlds, the space above the wilderness suddenly distorted. Dongbua Shuang walked out from within. He looked up at the sun to determine his position. I have deviated by quite a bit. If the distance was too far, most ultra-long distance teleportations would have deviations, unless one left behind a spatial mark. But to Dongbua Shuang, there was no need for him to make arrangements since he was rushing over personally. Because no matter how far it was, 2 ultra-long distance teleportations would suffice. The first time, he arrived close to the target. The second time, because the distance was close, he could reach the target directly. The next time he appeared, Dongbua Shuang was already at the city gates of Chumu City. He entered the city gates and with another step, he arrived at the Eastern Unicorn Hall. The Eastern Unicorn Hall was similar to the 7-star Oceanic Pavilion. They opened their doors to welcome many cultivators to trade with them. At this moment, within a side hall of the Eastern Unicorn Hall in Chumu City, a dispirited middle-aged man with a scarlet horn was seated cross-legged and drinking wine by himself. He frowned slightly and was clearly troubled by something. Since an expert from the Great Void Heaven Temple is seeking to purchase the Scarlet Cloud Pomegranate Core, he must want it. And treasures like the Scarlet Cloud Pomegranate Core are usually bought by primal chaos giants. The scarlet-horned middle-aged man thought. With his strength, I believe he will agree to my request. But if he doesn't, I can only spin Origin World rocks to ask other experts for help. The scarlet-horned middle-aged man pondered. An attendant walked in from outside the hall. The single-horned middle-aged man immediately asked, "Has the guest arrived?" "The guest from the Great Void Heaven Temple has arrived," the attendant respectfully reported. So fast. The eyes of the single-horned middle-aged man brightened. He should have asked an expert for help and directly teleported over. For safety, he had spent 10 Origin World rocks from the myriad ancient sacred world to hire a primal chaos giant who specialized in ultra-long distance teleportation to send him to the Eastern Unicorn sacred world. The horned middle-aged man hastily stood up and instructed, "Lead the way." Yes. The attendant obediently led the way. Very soon, within a palace hall, the Eastern Unicorn Hall's branch hall master was personally accompanying him. With a single glance, the single-horned middle-aged man saw a white-robed teenager sitting cross-legged by the side of a long table. Currently, Shuang had concealed his aura and changed his appearance, so others could not recognize his identity. After all, the treasures this time were too precious. Even primal chaos giants would be jealous. From the looks of it, he isn't at the primal chaos realm. The single-horned middle-aged man felt a knot forming in his heart. "Please take a seat," Dongbua Shuang said from afar. The single-horned middle-aged man sat down. No matter what, those who could afford the Scarlet Cloud Pomegranate Core were not ordinary people. "I heard you have a Scarlet Cloud Pomegranate Core? I've been looking for it. Tell me, what's the price?" Dongbua Shuang asked directly. It was no secret that he urgently needed the Scarlet Cloud Pomegranate Core. "The price isn't high, just 5,000 Origin World stones," said the single-horned middle-aged man. Dongbua Shuang was startled. The normal price of the Scarlet Cloud Pomegranate Core was around 6,000 Origin World stones. If he took the initiative to purchase it, most people would increase the price. The person in front of him was actually lowering the price? "But I have a condition." The single-horned middle-aged man looked at Dongbua Shuang. "Speak." Dongbua Shuang remained calm. This was within his expectations. "Other than the 5,000 Origin World stones, I hope that you can help me settle 3 matters. The single-horned middle-aged man said. "The first matter is that you have to bring a young fellow over to the myriad ancient sacred world. He has just become a true god. I need you to accept him as a disciple and ensure that he can cultivate safely for 1,000,000,000,000 years. Furthermore, you have to provide him with the cultivation resources he requires. Naturally, you only have to provide him with the resources to reach the Unity Realm. If he doesn't become a void god in 1,000,000,000,000 years, the resources you have to pay will be lesser. I'll bring him away after 1,000,000,000,000 years. But you have to guarantee his safety in 1,000,000,000,000 years. The second matter is that you have to go to the myriad ancient sacred world and destroy a superpower called the Chief Devil Cliff. The two commanders of the Chief Devil Cliff must die. The two of them might specialize in survival, so I hope that you can get rid of the two of them within 100 billion years. There is plenty of time. The third matter is that there is a religion in the myriad ancient sacred world called the Green Pung sect. The young fellow I need you to save is also a disciple of this Green Pung sect. I hope that you can protect this Green Pung sect for 1,000,000,000,000 years. Within 1,000,000,000,000 years, the Green Pung sect must not be destroyed. The location of the sect must not be destroyed. Dongbua Shueying immediately began gathering information through the communication talisman. Myriad ancient sacred world. It was governed by Wu Zhu and Jie Zhu. The two of them had practically split the entire myriad ancient sacred world into two, with each ruling half of the region. And the region governed by Jie Zhu was famous for being chaotic. Over here, the Devour class cultivation was completely open to the public. Many experts were wantonly fighting and devouring. This place was even more chaotic than the dark abyss in his hometown Cosmos, of which the Chief Devil Cliff was one of the fiercest superpowers. The Green Pung sect was slightly weaker. These two superpowers belonged to the region governed by Jie Zhu. The two commanders of the Chief Devil Cliff were both at the 5th level Star Pagoda strength. They had devoured countless existences and were infamous. The Green Pung sect was an ancient cultivation system sect. They had an extremely formidable Green Pung inheritance, and many ancient cultivators had joined this sect. One had to know that inheritance was very important for the ancient cultivation system. Resources were important too. If one did not have an inheritance and had to rely on himself to explore, he might be able to become stronger, but he would not be able to dig out enough potential. The same starting point, but different inheritances would result in a world of difference in strength in the future. Dongbua Shueying had obtained a large number of ancient cultivation inheritances from the secret vault of Emperor Juyun. It's a pity that even though he had memorized many of them, they were too complex. Without truly comprehending them, he could not impart them either. These are my conditions. The single-horned middle-aged man looked at Dongbua Shueying. If you agree, then this transaction will be completed. Of course, if you don't do any of these 3 tasks well, you will have to pay 1,000 Origin World Rocks as compensation. If you don't do all 3 tasks well, you will have to pay 3,000 Origin World Rocks. The Eastern Unicorn Hall will be the witness. Dongbua Shueying looked at the single-horned middle-aged man. Who is the little fellow you want me to bring away? I will tell you once you agree to my conditions. The single-horned middle-aged man said, I have to rush to the myriad ancient sacred world, and I will need some time to reach the Green Pung sect. If the little fellow I want to bring dies along the way, the Green Pung sect will be destroyed. Are you blaming me for that? Dongbua Shueying asked. From the moment the transaction is completed, you have to reach the Green Pung sect within 1,000 years. If the little fellow dies within 1,000 years, the Green Pung sect will be destroyed. Naturally, I won't blame you. The single-horned middle-aged man sneered. But you better not send experts in the dark to destroy the Green Pung sect within 1,000 years. If you do that, I will definitely not rest until you die. Dongbua Shueying chuckled. He did not place the strength of this person in front of him in his eyes. But within the Eastern Unicorn Hall, Dongbua Shueying would not act recklessly. Even though he had the strength to destroy everything, killing a guest within the Eastern Unicorn sacred world would mean offending the various sacred grounds of the Eastern Unicorn sacred world. Even a primal chaos giant would not be able to bear the consequences. Rest assured, I disdain to do so, Dongbua Shueying said. Within a year, I will reach the Green Pung sect. Dongbua Shueying said, I will do my best in whatever you say. As for the Green Pung sect, as long as it isn't a primal chaos giant attacking with his true body, I can guarantee its safety. All right. The single-horned middle-aged man's eyes brightened. Reach in a year. The distance between the two sacred worlds was extremely far. To reach the Green Pung sect within a year, the price he had to pay wouldn't be small. You agree? The single-horned middle-aged man asked. I agree. Dongbo Shuang nodded. These weren't difficult for him. Protect the little fellow's safety? A little fellow who had just become a true god. He could just bring him back to his hometown cosmos. Kill the two leaders of the Chief Devil Cliff? Dongbo Shuang didn't care about the other party's strength. He cared more about the other party's temperament. Since they were two devils who had devoured countless people, he wouldn't mind killing them. Protect a sect. He pondered in his heart and thought of an idea. Ha ha ha. With the Eastern Unicorn Hall as a witness, I believe you can do it. The single-horned middle-aged man flipped his hand, and a jade box appeared. The scarlet cloud pomegranate core is inside. Dongbo Shuang revealed a grin. He had finally succeeded. Chapter 892. East Unicorn Hall was the witness of the transaction. Only then did the single-horned middle-aged man relax. He was too nervous. Ever since he obtained the precious scarlet cloud pomegranate core, he was constantly nervous. He even felt that the myriad ancient sacred world was too dangerous, and killing was too common. He spent over 1,000,000 years to be transported to the Eastern Unicorn sacred world. In terms of order, the Eastern Unicorn sacred world was better than the 7-star Oceanic sacred world. Before the transaction was completed, he was very nervous. He might have quoted the price of 5,000 Origin World rocks, but in reality, he hadn't even seen 100 Origin World rocks. With these Origin World rocks, my plan can be carried out. My strength can also greatly increase. The single-horned middle-aged man thought. He had too many plans. Seeing your uncle needs time to cultivate. 1,000,000,000,000 years. I will definitely return to the Green Pung sect. At that time, I will become the strongest expert in the Green Pung sect and control it. The myriad ancient sacred world, especially the region ruled by Jiezu, was too dangerous. It wasn't suitable for him to cultivate. Yin Pung. When Dongbo Shuang received the information, he couldn't help but ask, how long have you been away from the Green Pung sect? A few million years. The single-horned middle-aged man replied. Are you sure that Yin Pung is still in the Green Pung sect? Dongbo Shuang asked. The single-horned middle-aged man was startled. Should be. I think you should investigate. Dongbo Shuang smiled and looked at the hall master of the Eastern Unicorn Hall. Chifu Hall Master. It shouldn't be hard for your Eastern Unicorn Hall to investigate if this Yin Pung brat is still in the Green Pung sect, right? 1 Origin World rock. The Chifu Hall Master smiled. All right. The single-horned middle-aged man replied. Just one? The current him was rich and didn't care about this. Dongbo Shuang accompanied the single-horned middle-aged man to drink while waiting for news from the Eastern Unicorn Hall. Behind the Eastern Unicorn Hall were the Blade Imperial City, Void God Hall, Star City, and Ancestor Bone Palace. Among them, there were some powerful ancient cultivators that could investigate the Green Pung sect in the myriad ancient sacred world. After a moment, the kid called Yimping is not in the Green Pung sect. Palace Master Chifu said, I'll also give you a piece of information for free. When I was investigating Green Pung sect, I discovered Green Pung sect disciples discussing that a group of disciples was abducted. Yimping was one of them. The single-horned middle-aged man's heart was in his throat, and he heaved a sigh of relief when he heard that he had been captured. At the very least, it was possible that he was still alive. He hastily asked, Where is he now? How would I know? Palace Master Chifu shook his head. If we don't know the exact location, it won't be that easy to find. It's possible, Dongbo Shuang said. Just like in the Great Void Heaven Temple, when he was tracking down the assassin who had tried to assassinate him. If it wasn't for the Myriad Realms Tavern Master's obstruction, he would have already found out who the assassin was. Palace Master Chifu looked at Dongbo Shuang and nodded. Yes, you can, but it's much more troublesome. You'll need 200 Origin World rocks for each check. 200? The single-horned middle-aged man's eyes widened. He only spent 10 Origin World rocks to teleport over from the myriad ancient sacred world. Most experts who could get through the 4th level Star Pagoda Might not even have 200 origin world rocks worth of treasures. Just a simple check. You can choose not to check. Palace Master Chifu chuckled. Check. The single-horned middle-aged man gritted his teeth. This was the person he cared about the most, and he had to find out the truth. This time he waited for a long time. For hours later, Palace Master Chifu said, I've checked. This brat called Yunpeng is currently a slave of the myriad ancient sacred world's Golden Eclipse Nation, Devil Eye God Prefecture. Golden Eclipse Nation? Slave? The single-horned middle-aged man's expression turned slightly pale. Golden Eclipse Nation. It was a relatively strong superpower in the region governed by the myriad ancient sacred world master. The Golden Eclipse King was even one of the many personal disciples of Jiezu. Within a year, I'll reach the Golden Eclipse Nation and save this brat called Yunpeng, Dongbua Shuang said. Are you confident? The single-horned middle-aged man looked at Dongbua Shuang excitedly. From his point of view, just the identity of the Golden Eclipse King, as Jiezu's personal disciple, was enough for him to do whatever he wanted in the myriad ancient sacred world. Dongbua Shuang chuckled. This fella might be lucky to obtain the treasure, but his understanding of the upper echelons of the three great sacred worlds was still too little. I'm confident, Dongbua Shuang said. After the transaction was settled, Dongbua Shuang left the Eastern Unicorn sacred world alone and returned to his hometown cosmos. Within his hometown cosmos, Black Fog Sea's monarch residence. Jingqiu. Dongbua Shuang returned to the residence and shouted when he saw the figure of his wife, who was training her sword. Jingqiu turned around and chuckled. Snow Eagle, you're back so quickly? You said that there's a joyous occasion, but you didn't mention it in detail. What is it? Ha ha ha. Dongbua Shuang couldn't help but laugh. This was a joyous occasion. It wasn't easy for him to obtain the Scarlet Cloud Pomegranate Core. On one hand, he had to reach his current level of strength. On the other hand, he had to be lucky enough to enter Emperor Jian's Treasure Cove. If it wasn't for the Treasure Cove, how would he be able to afford the Scarlet Cloud Pomegranate Core? If he had to slowly accumulate it over time, he really didn't know how long he would need to accumulate it. What exactly is the joyous occasion? Hurry up and tell me. Jingqiu couldn't help but urge. Dongbua Shuang chuckled. He then waved his hand and instantly, a hall appeared out of nowhere. It landed on the grassland and occupied an area of 50 miles. Jingqiu could feel that the aura of this hall was extraordinary with a single glance. Just the formless aura alone was enough to make her feel pressured. Follow me in. Dongbua Shuang brought his wife into this hall. From today onwards, you will cultivate here. Dongbua Shuang smiled. As he spoke, he flipped his hand and took out a black jade bottle. With a flick of his hand, the black jade bottle flew towards a notch on the wall of the hall and was stuck there. Golden runic patterns appeared on the surface of the black jade bottle. The entire hall was filled with runic patterns as a faint fragrance permeated the air. Just by smelling the fragrance, one's soul would feel incomparably tranquil. This fragrance can last for 380 million years. Dongbua Shuang spoke as he flipped his hand and took out a jade box. Opening it, a fragrant green bamboo shoot could be seen within the box. Although it looked like a bamboo shoot, upon closer inspection, there were many differences. There were layers of translucent runic patterns on its surface. Eat it. Dongbua Shuang looked at his wife. Jingqiu just smelled the fragrance emitted from the jade box, and she felt her soul rumbling. She could instantly comprehend and think. The efficiency was so high that it was almost comparable to the enlightenment she had experienced in the past. She knew that her husband had left his hometown cosmos to search for treasures, so that they could transcend. As for Dongbua, Qingyao, and Dongbuyu, they had relied on themselves to break through. She was the only one left. Her husband was previously overjoyed, and it should be because of this treasure. Amen. Jingqiu directly picked it up. She lightly bit on it. It was very crispy. The moment it entered her mouth, it melted completely, turning into a green energy that fused into her body. She felt a soul-trembling sensation that was even more stimulating than when she smelled the fragrance. Quick, eat everything, Dongbua Shuang said. Jingqiu ate it in 2 mouthfuls before eating it. She did not know what kind of precious treasure she had just eaten. If she were to exchange this scarlet cloud pomegranate core, she would be able to obtain a puppet life form that was similar in strength to the wild black dog from the starting ground. The price of creating a cosmos was not even comparable to this scarlet cloud pomegranate core. Some of the newer and weaker primal chaos giants might not be able to afford this scarlet cloud pomegranate core, even if they sold all their treasures. Chapter 893. Not only that black jade bottle contained the Qianyi water spiritual liquid. It could last for 380 million years, and it cost Dongbua Shueing 1,200 origin world rocks to buy. This god palace was even refined by a cosmos god, costing 900 origin world rocks. And adding on the scarlet cloud pomegranate core, he had to pay a total of 7,100 origin world rocks. After that, he still had to complete 3 tasks for that single-horned middle-aged man. This is the limit of what I can do, Dongbua Shueing thought. Because in history, there were cosmos gods and primal chaos giants who helped their stage 4 world deities transcend. Hence, they had the so-called best cultivation technique. The Qianyi water spiritual liquid complemented with the god palace and the scarlet cloud pomegranate core. After eating the scarlet cloud pomegranate core, it should be able to last for more than 300 million years. Dongbua Shueing said, Jingqiu, you have to cherish every moment you have to cultivate during these 300 million years. Amen, Jingqiu nodded. She could not suppress it any longer. At this moment, large amounts of inspiration flashed in her soul. She just had to divert a bit of her heart force to deduce these inspirations, allowing her to gain a huge amount of comprehension. This feeling was even more exaggerated than having an epiphany. This was normal too. Dongbua Shueing had only eaten a supplementary spiritual fruit worth 50 origin world rocks. Furthermore, he was much stronger than Jingqiu. Jingqiu was not a true god after all. She was just a stage 4 world deity. With these precious treasures on her, the efficiency of her comprehension was more exaggerated than having an epiphany. Furthermore, because her soul was too weak, the energy of the scarlet cloud pomegranate core would only be exhausted after 300 million years. Hurry up and leave. I want to enter closed-door cultivation, Jingqiu said. Any cultivator would dream of having such a cultivation state. Dongbua Shueing chuckled before leaving. Hong Long, the palace door closed. Jingqiu immediately entered closed-door cultivation. Dongbua Shueing looked at the closed palace hall in front of him. He could not help but grin. He could completely guess the current state of his wife. A cultivation state that is much higher than having an epiphany. Furthermore, it can be maintained for more than 300 million years. If she could not transcend under such a state, I have nothing to say. 5 great sacred worlds. To a universe god in the 4th heaven, this was the best condition to assist in cultivation. As for the heart of eternity and the origin world fruit, they weren't used to aid cultivation. Rather, they were used to forcefully transcend eternity. It's time to complete the 3 things I promised. Dongbua Shueing thought. This palace hall was refined by a cosmos god. With his wife inside, there was no need for him to worry about anyone causing trouble. His wife controlled the hall, and even he couldn't break it. You are Qingyao, your mother is currently in seclusion. Don't disturb her. Dongbua Shueing transmitted a message to his children to prevent them from worrying about their mother. Swoosh. Following that, Dongbua Shueing soared into the sky. The space above him distorted, and he flew right into it. When he reappeared, he was already in the myriad ancient sacred world. Myriad ancient sacred world. When dealing with the 2 great religions, it stood on the side of the Eastern Unicorn sacred world and the 7-star Oceanic sacred world. But in terms of strength, it was ranked 2nd in the 5 great sacred worlds. Naturally, it had the qualifications to be arrogant. For instance, Jiezu wasn't any weaker than Ancestor Mother, and the mysterious Wuxia was famous for his many techniques. He wasn't any different from Ancestor Mother. Both Jiezu and Wuxia were extremely arrogant. They had practically split this sacred world into 2. Both ruled their own regions without interfering with each other. In the region ruled by Wuxia, the hex cultivation system was the most flourishing. Many hex cultivators lived in seclusion. The hex system preferred to spend long periods in closed-door research. They had all sorts of strange techniques too. One had to admit, at least in this era, the hex system was superior to the laws and profound mysteries system in all aspects, be it in terms of combat power at the highest level, or at the primal chaos realm or unity realm. The laws and profound mysteries system was mainly broken in the middle. In the past, the creator of the laws and profound mysteries system, Ancestor Tsang, died. For a long period of time, the laws and profound mysteries system declined. Fortunately, Forefather Tianyu rose and constructed the Great Void Heaven Temple. But in terms of combat power, be it Forefather Tianyu or the current Sword Master, they were at the third level amongst the final realm existences. Even now, in terms of reputation, the laws and profound mysteries system was slightly weaker than the hex system. Golden Eclipse Nation, Devil Eye God Residence. Pa. In one of the small courtyards of this luxurious residence, a green-skinned giant was currently whipping a young man. The young man did not dare to resist. Naturally, he would only be asking for trouble if he resisted. He could only endure it. The whip landed on his body, causing him to roll on the ground. As he was whipped, many savage wounds appeared on his body. Following that, they rapidly healed. Master, the green-skinned giant respectfully said to the female leader of the group, I have finished whipping him 100 times. Humph. This female with a purple scar on her forehead sneered at the young man. In the future, remember this. When you see me, not only must you kneel down, you must also touch the ground with your face. Do you understand? You are just a slave. You must remember your identity. Yes. The young man knelt down, his face completely touching the ground. Amen. Only then did the female acknowledge. She turned around and left. Behind her was a group of subordinates. The surroundings regained its silence. Only then did the young man stand up. He wiped off the dust on his face. He was in so much pain that his body was slightly trembling. The injuries caused by the whip were minor. More importantly, it was too painful. That whip was used by the god residents to punish slaves like them. Every whip was more painful than death. Slave. The young man Yinpeng thought. He felt sorrowful in his heart. Golden Eclipse Nation, Devil Eye God Residence. I can't even escape from it. The 8 great experts under the Golden Eclipse King had each built a god residence. One could imagine the status of the Devil Eye God Residence within the Golden Eclipse Nation. The Golden Eclipse King was even the personal disciple of Jiezu. Slave. Forever a slave? Yinpeng obediently lowered his head and began cleaning the courtyard. Being a slave, he was not qualified to raise his head normally. I can't escape. If I want to lead a better life, I can only work hard and cultivate until I become a void god. Only then can I regain my freedom. But I'm too far away from becoming a void god. I don't have any resources, and I don't even have much time to cultivate. The more Yinpeng thought about it, the more sorrowful he felt. But as a cultivator, he would not give up easily. In midair outside the Golden Eclipse Nation, there was a gust of wind blowing in midair. Suddenly, space distorted, and following that, a figure walked out with a sow. It was a white-robed young man calmly looking at the towering Golden Eclipse Nation in front. Not many knew that an extremely talented Unity Realm expert, who was comparable to a new Primal Chaos Realm giant, had arrived outside the city. A 6th-level Star Pagoda strength. This was sufficient for him to leave behind his name in the history of the 5 great sacred worlds. Golden Eclipse Nation. Dongbo Shuang extended his senses and discovered that this nation city was being maintained by a vast array. He could not forcefully investigate it. He immediately took a step and arrived by the city gates. The protectors by the city gates treated it as though nothing had happened. It was quite common to see experts who could teleport. Dongbo Shuang walked within the Golden Eclipse Nation. It seemed like he took a few ordinary steps, and others treated it as a short-distance teleportation. But every single step of Dongbo Shuang crossed 5 million kilometers. Just a few steps, and he was already standing in front of a luxurious residence. This was none other than one of the 8 great god residences within the Golden Eclipse Nation, the Devil Eye God Residence. Chapter 894. Although Dongbua Shueying was looking at the Demon Eye God estate in front of him, in truth, he had already used the plate ripple diagram to infiltrate the vast mansion, and discovered the little fellow named Yin Peng, who was about to become his disciple. He's actually kneeling so obediently, with his face touching the ground. Dongbua Shueying's brows twitched. He suddenly decided not to rush in. Being captured and turned into a slave, that was definitely the lowest point of one's life. Under normal circumstances, a slave would never have the chance to make a name for himself. Hence, he could use this opportunity to observe this future disciple of his. South Dongbua Shueying turned and took a step forward, arriving at a restaurant not far away. He found a seat, ordered some good wine and delicacies and ate alone. At the same time, he observed the actions of this disciple of his. He did not dare to be careless. After becoming a slave, he might lose his life at any time. He had to ensure his disciple's safety. Days passed by. Dongbua Shueying continued to observe. The energy of the Scarlet Cloud pomegranate core could last for more than 300 million years. He was not in a hurry to return. Seems like he hasn't given up. Dongbua Shueying revealed a smile. He actually made use of every bit of time he had to cultivate. Even when he was doing manual labor, being reprimanded, being whipped, he was still distracted by his cultivation. Amen. It's time to act. If I don't act now, this disciple of mine will lose his life. Dongbua Shueying calmly stood up. With a single step he disappeared. Because this was the region governed by Jiezu. Here, killing could be seen everywhere. Devouring groups of living beings was also a common sight. Slavery, punishment, torture, slaughter. It was common for a large group of living beings to be devoured in one gulp. Many of the punishments were to be devoured in one gulp. This was a place that was even darker than the dark abyss. Demon Eye God Estate. Within a punishment room, the young-looking Yin Peng had his strength sealed and was tied up. There was another person within the punishment room. It was a tall and skinny man with fair skin. He had a handsome appearance, and his dark red eyes were long and narrow. His tongue was very long, and as he licked his lips, he stuck out his tongue. With a swoosh, his tongue streaked across a distance of 2 to 3 meters, licking Yin Peng's skin. Ah! Yin Peng endured the pain. Am I really going to die? He actually caught the attention of the most terrifying expert of the Demon Eye Divine Estate, Paragon Blood Insect. Supremacy Blood Insect was the beloved disciple of the Devil Eye Prefecture's Prefecture Master, the Devil Eye Nefarious Lord. He had great potential in the Devour cultivation system. Now that he had stepped into the Unity Realm, he could be considered an expert amongst those at the Unity Realm. Venerable Blood Caterpillar was said to be the one who loved to eat the most in the entire mansion. He usually traveled around and devoured countless living beings. Occasionally, when he returned to Golden Eclipse Nation's city, he couldn't eat wantonly because of the city's rules. Therefore, Venerable Blood Caterpillar would usually cultivate in seclusion in the city, and would occasionally choose a target to enjoy himself. This time, Yin Peng was chosen. Direct disciple of the Green Peng sect? His body actually nurtured the blood of the Azure Peng. Paragon Blood Caterpillar's eyes lit up. He stuck out his tongue and licked another piece of flesh. He ate until his entire mouth was filled with blood. After that, he swallowed every single drop of blood. The taste is truly wonderful. I've heard that if one cultivates the inheritance of the Green Peng sect to the pinnacle, one could even transform into a Green Peng and step into the primal chaos realm? Woo-woo. After flipping through the newly captured slaves in the mansion, and seeing that they are all disciples of the Green Peng sect, I carefully inspected them, and felt that your aura was the most attractive to me. Indeed, it is true. As Paragon Blood Caterpillar was devouring, there were many little insects within his body that were absorbing the blood and flesh. At the same time, they were able to distinguish the blood of the Azure Peng, and were attempting to fuse the blood into his body. The blood of the Azure Peng is really beneficial to my body. Paragon Blood Caterpillar thought. The Devour cultivation system, even though most of them were weak, For instance, those at the Unity Realm were usually at the first-level Star Pagoda strength. This system would still produce some terrifying existences. For instance, the High and Mighty Jiezu proved this point. The majority of those who were accepted as personal disciples by him were extremely talented in the Devour cultivation system. They could refine the essence of the life forms they devoured into their bodies, absorbing the merits of the flesh and soul of other life forms, allowing their life to become more perfect. Like Jiezu, the strength of his body was much stronger than Blade Emperor and others who cultivated the strongest warrior cultivation system. Jiezu's fleshy body was the most perfect body. Even his soul was similarly strong and perfect. Hence, Wuxia could not win against Jiezu despite having many techniques. It was publicly acknowledged. Sacred Master was ranked first, followed by Ancestor Mother and Jiezu. The gap between Wuxia and Ancestor Mother and Jiezu was the smallest. After that was Blade Emperor. Devil Mountain Primogenitor and Jade Light Master were even further behind. MN. Paragon Blood Caterpillar was currently immersed in enjoyment when his expression suddenly changed, because a white-robed young man appeared in the punishment room. "Who are you?" Paragon Blood Caterpillar coldly shouted with slight vigilance. "I am his teacher." Dongbua Shueying pointed at Yinpeng, who was tied up by the side. With this point, the chains on Yinpeng's body shattered. Yinpeng looked at this unfamiliar white-robed young man in a daze. He was certain he did not recognize this mysterious expert in front of him. "Teacher." Yinpeng did not hesitate to kneel down. He immediately kowtowed, even though he did not recognize him. But he was clear. This was his only hope of survival. His teacher. Paragon Blood Caterpillar stared at Dongbua Shueying. "You are from the Greenping sect?" "You can say so," Dongbua Shueying answered. In the future, he would have to protect the Greenping sect for 1,000,000,000,000 years. Hence, he could barely be considered as part of the Greenping sect. "Greenping sect, you dare to infiltrate the Devil I God Prefecture? You are truly daring." Paragon Blood Caterpillar coldly laughed. Hung Long. The door to the punishment chamber suddenly opened, and a person walked in. This was an evil-looking man in a purple robe. There was a mark on his forehead. The moment he entered, his gaze swept across the room and landed on Dongbua Shueying. "Teacher," Paragon Blood Caterpillar hurriedly said, "this Greenping sect actually dares to infiltrate our Devil I God Prefecture." When he noticed Dongbua Shueying's sudden appearance, he did not dare to be careless, and immediately reported to his superiors. This evil-looking man looked at Dongbua Shueying and scrutinized him. He sneered. "You shouldn't be among the experts of the Greenping sect. However, you dare to trespass my territory. You are truly courting death. I shall let you be my food." With that said, he opened his mouth and was about to devour Dongbua Shueying. "Devil Eye!" A majestic voice resounded. The evil-looking man was shocked. A majestic figure appeared in the punishment chamber. He had golden hair, and his skin shone with a dazzling golden luster. He had a bloody mouth, a nose that pointed upwards, and a pair of eyes that emitted a monstrous domineering aura. "Monarch." The evil-looking man did not hesitate to bow respectfully. "Monarch." Paragon Blood Caterpillar was so frightened that he hurriedly bowed. This person in front of him was the existence that created the Golden Eclipse Nation, Golden Eclipse King. He was someone that Jiezu admired and took in as a personal disciple. It was said that he cultivated the ancient cultivation system, but just the Devour class system gave him a 5th-level Star Pagoda strength. The moment he unleashed his ancient cultivation strength, he would be considered a peak expert amongst those at the 5th-level Star Pagoda strength. His strength was comparable to Dongbua Shueying before he comprehended the My Heart as the world. Golden Eclipse King was looking at Dongbua Shueying with a grin, because when Dongbua Shueying entered, he had transmitted a message to Golden Eclipse King. That was why Golden Eclipse King rushed over. After all, the 3 great sacred worlds worked closely with the 2 great religions. The higher-ups of the 3 great sacred worlds would also work together. Dongbua Shueying did not dare to act recklessly against the personal disciple of Jiezu, and Golden Eclipse King did not dare to act against an inner hall elder of the Great Void Heaven Temple either. They regarded each other highly, Dongbua Shueing did not dare to belittle the other party. After all, he determined that the other party was at the peak of the 5th level Star Pagoda strength. But it had been a long time since Golden Eclipse King acted, and Golden Eclipse King understood that this elder Dongbua had cultivated for a short period, yet he was able to reach such a strength. It was hard to predict how strong he would become in the future. Golden Eclipse King. Dongbua Shueing said, Elder Dongbua. Golden Eclipse King chuckled. The expressions of Devil Eye Nefarious Monarch and Paragon Blood Insect changed. Why is Elder Dongbua interested in coming to my Golden Eclipse Nation? Golden Eclipse King chuckled. My disciple has been captured as a slave in this Devil Eye Prefecture. Naturally I am here. If I were a step slower, I would have been eaten. Dongbua Shueing said as he glanced at Yin Peng by the side. Yin Peng, who had escaped with his life, felt slightly giddy at this moment. The mysterious expert that the Golden Eclipse King was so polite to was actually his teacher? What happened? Golden Eclipse King's expression sunk. He swept his gaze across Devil Eye Nefarious Monarch by the side. Devil Eye, why would the disciple of Elder Dongbua be captured as a slave? Give Elder Dongbua an explanation. Yes. Devil Eye Nefarious Monarch's eyebrows shot out a dim violet light that landed on the body of Paragon Blood Insect. Paragon Blood Insect was momentarily stunned. He could not move at all. Devil Eye Nefarious Monarch even opened his mouth and swallowed Paragon Blood Insect whole. Devil Eye Nefarious Monarch was clear. With the temperament of his king, he did not hesitate to eat his disciple as an apology. In the region ruled by Jiezu, the hierarchy was even stricter and crueler. Elder Dongbua, even though Devil Eye is slightly petty, why don't we just let this matter go? Golden Eclipse King chuckled as he looked at Dongbua Shueing. Go. This punishment room isn't a good place. Come to my place and have a seat. All right. Dongbua Shueing nodded. In his heart, he was still shocked at how Devil Eye Nefarious Monarch had swallowed Paragon Blood Insect whole. He had long heard that the region ruled by Jiezu was cruel and indifferent. However, seeing was believing. Khan is crazy. Star. Chapter 895. Inside the Golden Eclipse Kingdom's palace. Plate after plate of delicacies were served. The Golden Eclipse Heavenly King and Dongbua Shueing sat facing each other. Behind Dongbua Shueing was Yin Peng. At this moment, Yin Peng was still feeling uneasy and terrified. The Golden Eclipse King naturally emitted an aura of suppression that was too terrifying. It was not deliberately emitted, but rather released naturally. Furthermore, Yin Peng's current state of mind was unstable. Who exactly is this Elder Dongbua? It seems that the Golden Eclipse King treats him with great importance. And Devil Eye Nefarious Monarch actually ate his disciple, Paragon Blood Insect, to make amends. I've never seen him before. Among all the powerful beings I know, there shouldn't be anyone who's qualified to befriend this Elder Dongbua. He was uneasy. However, he didn't know that his martial uncle, who cared about him the most, had gotten lucky and obtained the Scarlet Cloud Pomegranate Core, and invited Dongbua Shueing. Please, my Golden Eclipse country is only average, but in terms of delicacies, there are not many places in the 7-star oceanic sacred world that can compare to mine. The Golden Eclipse Heavenly King said. In the Devour-type cultivation system, the higher one's talent was, the more demanding they would be when it came to eating. As a result, although Jiezu's territory was chaotic and brutal, the delicacies there were indeed amazing. Many weak cultivators were forced to study delicacies. It's not bad. Dongbua Shueing would occasionally eat some. I've heard that Elder Dongbua's dark plane is extremely formidable. Can I have a look at it? The Golden Eclipse Monarch chuckled. Dongbua Shueing didn't think much of it. He knew that the other party didn't have any ill intentions. It was just that this was the custom of the region under Jiezu's rule. They believed in absolute power. Golden Eclipse Heavenly King, the array within your palace is rather stable. Dongbua Shueing looked at an enormous stone sculpture outside the palace door. The material of that stone sculpture was ordinary, but under the protection of the entire royal palace's arrays, even a 5th-level Star Pagoda expert would have a hard time injuring this stone sculpture. Dongbua Shueing waved his hand lightly. Hua. The dark world descended from the illusory to the real world, enveloping the stone statue. The layers of the dark world naturally absorbed the power of the world around it, forming a whirlpool of power of the world. The golden eclipse monarch's eyelids twitched. He could feel the terror of the dark world. Pung. This world of darkness had a total of 360 levels. When all of them exploded out, the quantitative change led to a qualitative change. The destructive power instantly destroyed the spell formation and struck the stone statue. With a low rumble, the stone statue turned into nothingness. The golden eclipse monarch was shocked. Dongbua Shuiying is so powerful. Although most of the strong cultivators in Jiezu's territory are not good at setting up formations, his palace is a place where he usually rests and cultivates. Therefore, he specially invited a powerful cultivator to help him set up a formation. In terms of setting up arrays, although experts of the laws and profound mysteries system were powerful, they were still ranked below the hex cultivators. In terms of arrays and artifact refinement, hex cultivators were ranked first. Although the defense of the place where he usually received guests was not as strong as the place where he rested in seclusion, even he would have to use his full strength to barely penetrate the array. But just now, the array that enveloped the stone statue had been destroyed by the violent power, and the stone statue had been destroyed. This move of his is slightly more powerful than my ultimate move. The golden eclipse monarch was inwardly shocked. This was normal. 600 levels of the dark world was enough to reach the combat power of the 6th floor of Star Tower. Although the 360 levels were slightly weaker, it was enough to reach the threshold of the 6th floor of Star Tower's combat power. It was enough to intimidate everyone. Impressive, impressive. The golden eclipse monarch said. Elder Dongbua has cultivated for a much shorter period than me. I'm afraid that even I am inferior to Elder Dongbua now. There are many aspects to a battle. It isn't just about offensive power. Dongbua Shuiying laughed. The golden eclipse monarch has an illustrious battle record. He has truly proven himself through battle after battle. The golden eclipse monarch laughed. But he was clear that even if the two of them were at the same level, with Dongbua Shuiying's cultivation speed, it wouldn't take long for him to leave him in the dust. Following which, the atmosphere between the two of them became even more harmonious. The golden eclipse monarch became even more passionate as he served all sorts of delicacies. Clearly, he was sincere in befriending Dongbua Shuiying. After all, when one's strength reached the level of the golden eclipse monarch, his vision wouldn't just stop at the myriad ancient sacred world. He would set his sights on the 5 great sacred worlds and the primal chaos void. There's no need for the golden eclipse monarch to send me off. Dongbua Shuiying laughed. If you're free in the future, you can look for me there when you pass by Greenpeng sect. You're really related to Greenpeng sect? The golden eclipse monarch, who had personally sent Dongbua Shuiying out of the city, was slightly shocked. Yin Peng, who had been following silently by the side, also looked at Dongbua Shuiying in shock. Amen. I'm acquainted with an expert from Greenpeng sect. We have an agreement that I'll be guarding Greenpeng sect for a period of time. Dongbua Shuiying said. No wonder. The golden eclipse monarch nodded. If there's an opportunity, I'll definitely head over. It was too troublesome to travel within the sacred world. Even if it was golden eclipse king, without any special reason, he would not rush all the way to the Greenpeng sect just to have a chat with Shuiying. After all, with his speed, it would take at least a few 100 million years for him to reach Greenpeng sect from Golden Eclipse Nation. All right. Dongbua Shuiying nodded. Sila, Dongbua Shuiying waved his hand, tearing out a spatial passage. He then brought Yin Peng into the spatial passage. Seeing the spatial passage gradually closing up, the Golden Eclipse monarch blinked his eyes. This Dongbua Shuiying has such formidable attainments in the spatial domain. He is actually able to tear out a spatial passage? Usually, this was done by primal chaos realm giants. Naturally, there were those at the Unity realm who specialized in the void aspect who could do it too. But the Golden Eclipse monarch was clearly not one of them. Even though he was powerful, the complex laws and profound mysteries, and the Tao of myriad existences, that the hex cultivators cultivated, gave him a headache. It was still better to eat and become stronger. Hometown starting Cosmos, within a hall in the Black Fog Sea Monarch residence. Dongbua Shuang sat on a chair. By the side, there was a puzzled pair of siblings, Dongbua Yu and Dongbua Qingyao. Kneel down. Dongbua Shuang looked at Yinpeng in front of him and said. Yinpeng did not hesitate to kneel down obediently. This was a huge thigh. Even a proud person like the Golden Eclipse Monarch admitted that he was inferior. Because of the agreement, I have to accept you as my disciple. Dongbua Shuang indifferently said. But I, Dongbua Shuang, will not easily accept disciples. From today onwards, you shall be an honorary disciple of mine. Yes, teacher. Yinpeng immediately kowtowed. Dongbua Shuang watched the scene calmly. By the side, Dongbua Yu and Dongbua Qingyao were startled. This was a true god paragon. Their father accepted him as a disciple, yet he was only an honorary disciple? This pair of siblings clearly did not know that with the current strength of Dongbua Shuang, if he was willing to accept disciples, many void gods would kneel down and beg to become his disciple. But Dongbua Shuang did not care too much about this. After all, he was in existence at the primal chaos realm. His current goal was to step into the primal chaos realm. Wang. Dongbua Shuang casually pointed out, causing a stream of light to fly into the mind of Yinpeng. This is the rule of my sect, and no one is allowed to violate it. Those who violate it will be severely punished according to the rules. Dongbua Shuang said. Yinpeng extended his senses, and could not help but feel bitter in his heart. This rule was really strict. It was not easy for a cultivator living in the region governed by Jiezu to adapt to the rules set by Dongbua Shuang. After all, the rules set by Dongbua Shuang were much stricter than those set by the Great Void Heaven Temple. The Great Void Heaven Temple was still comparatively too lax. Rest assured, this isn't the myriad ancient sacred world. We are in a cosmos, and this place is more than 10,000 times more peaceful than the myriad ancient sacred world. Dongbua Shuang said. As long as you don't create trouble, nobody will kill you. Who would dare to kill a disciple of Dongbua Shuang in his hometown cosmos? Furthermore, Yinpeng was a true god paragon. Yinpeng was slightly stunned. Nobody would kill him if he did not create trouble? There was such a good thing. You Qingyao, introduce our cosmos to this junior disciple brother. Dongbua Shuang ordered. Yes, father. Dongbua Yu, Dongbua Qingyao were slightly excited. They could tell that this new junior disciple brother came from the myriad ancient sacred world. Although they had some understanding of the outside world from their father, it was still too little. Junior disciple brother, quick, follow us. Let me treat you to a drink. Dongbua Qingyao and Dongbua, you were very enthusiastic. Yinpeng was not used to it. This was an extremely safe place. Yet he had such enthusiastic seniors? He was not used to such an environment. He did not even dare to dream about it. Although the juniors in front of him were slightly weaker. He watched as they left. Dongbua Shuang nodded silently. It's time to settle the Greenpeng sect's matters. There was no need to worry about Yinpeng's safety. Guarding and protecting the Greenpeng sect was also one of the three matters. Dongbua Shuang did not have the time to waste on such matters. Naturally, he had to settle everything as soon as possible. Chapter 896. Dongbua Shuang once again arrived at the myriad ancient sacred world. To him, going to any place was as easy as breathing. Greenpeng sect. Standing in the wilderness, one had to look at the undulating mountain range in the distance. The mountain range ahead was the Greenpeng mountain range, where the Greenpeng sect was located. The powerful disciples of the Greenpeng sect all had very unique bodies, evolving towards the ultimate Greenpeng. Thus, they attracted the greed of many devour-type cultivators, who would often ambush and eat them. In order not to be eaten, the Greenpeng sect had to become stronger. Fortunately, the legacy of the Greenpeng sect was imprinted on the Greenpeng mountain range. Although the sect had been destroyed many times in history, new cultivators would come to this mountain range, learn the legacy, and establish the Greenpeng sect once again. Dongbua Shuang directly walked forward. Step by step, Dongbua Shuang traversed tens of thousands of li with each step. Moreover, He was getting higher and higher as he approached the Green Peng mountain range. This is the Green Peng sect. If you want to ascend the mountain, you have to walk up from the foot of the mountain. The disciples of Green Peng sect who were guarding the mountain could see a figure teleporting with every step he took. He was getting closer and closer. Even though Ying was releasing an unseen pressure, they still angrily shouted out. Because after so many years, they all understood one thing. When facing an enemy, one had to use strength to conquer them. This was the iron law of this boundless land. Dongbo Ying extended his right hand, and a black gourd appeared in his hand. He then pulled out the stopper of the black gourd. South. A fireball flew out, and after flying out, it rapidly grew in size, turning into a huge blazing star with a diameter of 1,000,000 li. The flames on its surface surged, and its might was majestic, causing all the experts of the Green Peng sect to be frightened. One by one they rushed out. What's going on? Why is there such a huge fluctuation? This might. The experts of the Green Peng sect rushed out from their residences and seclusion grounds, and raised their heads to look at the sky. The massive flaming star emitted waves of heat that caused everyone's expressions to change. It was even more dazzling than the sun in the sky, and its existence even began to affect the operation of the surrounding laws. There were hazy ripples on the surface of the flaming star's heat waves, and countless void divine runes were also rippling, instantly invading the entire Green Peng mountain range below. The flaming star descended slightly, causing the entire protective array in the entire mountain range to tremble and distort. Pooh-pa! The arrays of the Green Peng sect were far weaker than those of the Golden Eclipse Nation. They could barely resist against 4th-level Star Pagoda experts. Under the power of the fireball from the black gourd, just a small portion of its power was enough to cause these arrays to crumble. This made the experts of the Green Peng sect anxious. Suddenly, the black gourd fireball came to a halt. A white-robed young man walked over. With a wave of his right hand, the massive flaming star rapidly shrank, turning into a small fireball the size of an egg. The fireball spun above the white-robed young man's palm. Who is that? They were all a little scared. Dongbo Ying looked down. The unseen ripples from the plate ripple diagram enveloped the area below. Within moments, it had restricted all the experts of the Green Peng sect, including an expert who seemed low-profile and unremarkable, yet was the strongest at the 4th-level Star Pagoda strength. That yellow-haired old man had a huge change in expression. He was struggling, but under the influence of the plate ripple diagram, it was taxing for him to struggle. He understood that even if he could barely struggle, his strength had been suppressed to just 10% to 20%, and it was easy for the other party to kill him. After executing the plate ripple diagram to suppress and restrict them, Dongbo Ying released the restriction, allowing them to regain their freedom. These Green Peng sect experts felt the terrifying restriction disappear, and they were slightly startled. Listen up. Dongbo Ying looked down at the entire Green Peng mountain range. From today onwards, I will be the Taoist elder of the Green Peng sect. Is there anyone who has any objections? His voice was grand and mighty. It reverberated across the world, and by the ears of every disciple of the Green Peng sect. All the disciples of the Green Peng sect were stunned. Following that, they revealed a look of wild joy. Greetings, Taoist elder. At that moment, there were disciples who directly knelt down. Very soon, throughout the entire Green Peng mountain range, countless disciples also knelt down. Greetings, Taoist elder. All the experts of the Green Peng sect were incomparably excited. Dongbo Ying sighed inwardly. If this was the 7-star oceanic sacred world, there would probably be some disciples who would rather die than to fight. However, this was the region ruled by Jezu in the 10,000 ancient sacred world. After countless years, this place had unabashedly believed in strength. Furthermore, although there were many in the Green Peng sect who cultivated the Green Peng legacy, there were also many other ancient cultivator legacies. After all, ancient cultivators depended on talent. Not everyone was suitable for the Green Peng legacy. In addition, this land was too chaotic. This caused the ancient cultivators to form groups. The Green Peng sect, was actually formed with the cultivators who inherited the Green Peng legacy as the core. After that, it attracted a large number of other ancient cultivators to form a group. The reason why they formed groups was because of survival. If a super expert were to descend and become their Taoist elder, they would laugh even in their dreams. Because this signified safety. Safety was something that countless cultivators in this land yearned for. And did Dongbua Shuang have any ill intentions? They did not care. Because Dongbua Shuang had used his previous techniques to prove one point. As long as he was willing, he could destroy the entire Green Peng sect in an instant. He could trample on them however he wanted. There was no need for him to play any tricks. That was also the reason why Dongbua Shuang revealed his tyrannical strength the moment he arrived. If he did not reveal his strength, why would everyone in the Green Peng sect respect Dongbua Shuang as their Taoist elder? In the main hall of the Green Peng sect, Dongbua Shuang sat at the highest position in the main hall. Even the sect master had to stand by the side. Below him were many experts and disciples of the Green Peng sect. The arrays of the Green Peng sect are too weak. Dongbua Shuang coldly said, "From today onwards, I will reconstruct the arrays and control the array techniques. Gu Shang, Beizhou, I will impart them to the two of you. The two of you will control one protection array each." Yes, Gu Shang was the sect master of the Green Peng sect. He was at the 3rd level Star Pagoda strength. He immediately acknowledged the order. And the other old man with messy yellow hair was called Beizhou. He lived in seclusion within the Green Peng sect, and did not listen to orders. He was originally the strongest in the Green Peng sect. At this moment he obediently acknowledged the order. If there is anyone who can break through the arrays, immediately send a transmission to me, Dongbua Shuang ordered. I will usually enter closed-door cultivation. Occasionally, I will go out for a walk. If there isn't a huge matter, don't come and disturb me. Saying that, Dongbua Shuang stood up and left. All the experts in the Green Peng sect were slightly stunned. In the following days, Dongbua Shuang did his best to construct the arrays. One array could be sensed by ordinary disciples. It was a warning array that was constructed using the profound mysteries of the plate ripple diagram as the core. And another array was a mirage array that could cause enemies to fall into an illusory realm. And the final array was a killing array. It was created according to the apocalyptic 5th sword. If the array could not hold on, Dongbua Shuang would naturally appear. What's going on? Isn't this Grand Elder's temper too weird? Gu Shang and Beizhou stood outside a cave abode in a daze. Dongbua Shuang cultivated in this cave abode. Usually, he forbade disciples from disturbing him. Who cares? Sect head Gu Shang grinned and said, "This Grand Elder seems to have chosen our Green Peng sect as his place of seclusion. Moreover, he doesn't seem to like trivial matters. As long as it doesn't involve a huge matter, we will not disturb him. With such a super expert around, ha ha ha. Our Green Peng sect will have good days in the future. I am really looking forward to those devils coming to provoke our Green Peng sect again. At that time, I can also control the killing array to show its might." He controlled the killing array of the 3 great arrays. Once it was activated, the sword light would descend with an abnormally terrifying might. The yellow-haired elder had circles of pupils in his eyes. He nodded as well. There are many experts with strange tempers. Our Green Peng sect is lucky to have such an expert here. You must instruct the disciples in charge of taking orders in the surroundings, not to anger the Grand Supreme Elder. That's natural. Sect head Gu Shang nodded. At the same time he thought in his heart, this expert was willing to become the Grand Elder of Green Peng sect, because of the imprint of the Green Peng mountain range? The Green Peng inheritance was indeed mystical. It was imprinted on the mountain range. Even if the mountain range was destroyed, it would protrude over time. The inheritance would never be destroyed. In history, there were some primal chaos giants who personally came to observe this inheritance. But it was rare for someone to become the Grand Elder because of this. After all, with Dongbua Ying's terrifying strength, nobody dared to stop him from viewing the inheritance. Chapter 897. The experts of the Green Peng sect thought that this terrifying Taoist elder was in closed-door cultivation. But in reality, Dongbua Shuang had stealthily returned to his hometown Cosmos from the Greenpeng sect. With the 3 arrays I have constructed, the Greenpeng sect should be fine. Even if there is trouble, I can rush over immediately. Dongbua Shuang nodded inwardly. That time, I promised to do 3 things. Accepting a disciple, protecting Yin Peng, and guarding the Greenpeng sect are simple. I just need to spend some time. Only the 3rd matter is slightly troublesome. The 2 commanders of the Chief Devil Cliff. Dongbua Shuang pondered. Chief Devil Cliff. The reputation of the myriad ancient sacred world was not any weaker than that of the Golden Eclipse Nation. The 2 commanders of Chief Devil Cliff were recorded clearly in the intelligence report of the Great Void Heaven Temple that they were at the 5th level Star Pagoda strength. With this level of strength, the place where they usually stayed and cultivated would definitely be heavily guarded. Their imaginary enemies would likely be primal Chaos Realm giants, because the 2 of them did not fear 5th level Star Pagoda experts of the same level. The base was constructed for the sake of defending against powerful enemies and escaping. Even though Dongbua Shuang was confident, he was not certain that he could kill 2 5th level Star Pagoda experts in the base of the enemy. If he killed his way over, he would likely be obstructed by the arrays the other party had constructed over a long period of time. Even if the other party could not kill him, they could escape unhurriedly. If he failed the first time, it would be hard to find another opportunity. The array he constructed in the Greenpeng sect was so powerful. If it was for the sake of preserving their lives, the 2 commanders of Chief Devil Cliff would likely buy an array constructed by a primal chaos giant and place it in their territory. But with the treasures they had, they could only afford a fixed array. Like movable arrays, they were much more expensive than fixed arrays, and the difficulty of refining them was much higher. Similarly, a fixed array that could defend against 6th level Star Pagoda experts would require 300 Origin World rocks. And an array that could be brought along and used at any time would cost at least 3,000 Origin World rocks. The deal back then was to kill the 2 leaders of Chief Devil Cliff and set a time limit of 100 billion years. I have enough time. Only a fool would barge into their nest. Dongbua Shuang naturally had a plan. Just like the opponent he met in Emperor Jian's treasure trove, the Undying City Master. It was fortunate that they were in the treasure trove, and the Undying City Lord had nowhere to run to. Otherwise, given the other party's cloning technique, he could have easily escaped through space and fled in different directions. No matter how strong Dongbua Shuang was, he would only be able to chase after the Undying City Lord. Of course, currently, Dongbua Shuang had reached the My Heart as the Heavens state, and his strength was a level higher than when he was in Emperor Jian's treasure. Even if it was in the wilderness, he was confident that he could kill the 2 leaders of Chief Devil Cliff. Through the 7-star Oceanic Pavilion, Dongbua Shuang decided to inform him when the 2 leaders of Chief Devil Cliff left their lair. Without the geographical advantage of their lair, Dongbua Shuang was still confident. Experts of the laws and profound mysteries system might enter seclusion for 10 billion years. Hex cultivators might also enter seclusion for 10 billion, or even 100 billion years. But the 2 leaders of Chief Devil Cliff love to devour and kill. They don't have the patience to enter seclusion for too long. Dongbua Shuang understood the other party's intelligence. The 2 leaders of Chief Devil Cliff would usually not stay in their lair for too long before going out to devour and kill. Time passed year after year. The wind blew and the flowers fell. The ground was filled with beautiful purple and red petals. Dongbua Shuang sat beside a tree and watched as a petal floated down and landed in his cup. He could not help but raise his head and look at the distant palace hall. That was the palace hall where his wife was in seclusion. It had been more than 7 million years, but his wife had yet to transcend. Transcending might be an instant, or she might be stuck for a long time. But after consuming the Scarlet Cloud pomegranate core, my wife's cultivation state should be extremely good. It should be much better than having an epiphany. Why hasn't she broken through after so long? Dongbua Shuang thought. He then raised his head and drank another cup of wine. His slightly restless heart regained its calmness. With his cultivation heart, there were few things that could make his heart restless. But when it involved his wife transcending, it would always make his heart flustered. Elder Dongbua, the two leaders of Chief Devil Cliff have set off. Their destination should be Resistance Wind City. The intelligence from 7-Star Oceanic Pavilion came. Dongbua Shui Ying's eyes brightened. Even though the intelligence from 7-Star Oceanic Pavilion was expensive, it was very efficient. Who? Dongbua Shuang took a step before arriving at the distant starry sky. The space within the starry sky warped, and he disappeared from the vicinity. Myriad Ancient Sacred World, Resistance Wind City. Resistance Wind City was a relatively peaceful city, even though the Resistance Wind City Master was merely at the 4th level Star Pagoda strength. He was famous for his survival capabilities. He even called himself Resistance Wind. Even the name of the city was Resistance Wind. The moment he transformed his body into the wind, even experts at the 5th level Star Pagoda strength could not injure him at all. Because he was hard to deal with, few organizations dared to offend the Resistance Wind City he created. Within a courtyard within the Resistance Wind City, a white-robed Dongbua Shuang was currently sitting cross-legged on a praying mat with his eyes closed. He was currently comprehending and cultivating. He's finally here. Dongbua Shuang suddenly opened his eyes. He looked up at the sky. I've been waiting for 30,000 years in Resistance Wind City. The other party was quite fast in traveling, because the second leader of the two leaders of Chief Devil Cliff could tear a spatial passage to travel. Hong! Very soon, a distorted spatial maelstrom appeared in the space. Two figures flew out from the spatial maelstrom. Of the two of them, one was covered in black armor. He had a majestic body, and the surface of his armor was rolling with a sinister black aura. His pair of blood eyes looked downwards, emitting an unseen pressure that suppressed down below. Many cultivators who were affected by this unseen pressure were directly exterminated. Even many houses were directly destroyed like gravel. Within 1,000 miles of the black-armored figure, everything was annihilated and turned into nothingness. Even beyond 1,000 miles, many lives had died. He was the great leader of Chief Devil Cliff, Black Chief Devil. He was also the founder of Chief Devil Cliff, and was infamous. 80% of Chief Devil Cliff's infamy was due to him. The other was an unremarkable figure by the side. He was the second leader, Monarch Chi Hu. Monarch Chi Hu's figure was blurred like a strand of shadow in the world. Black Chief Devil, Monarch Chi Hu. Over 10 figures instantly flew up from the City Lord mansion of the Resistance Wind City. The one leading was a handsome purple-robed young man. He was the Resistance Wind City Lord. His face was filled with unconcealable anger. Starting a massacre in my city? Why? Do you really want to start a war with me? Although he was slightly weaker, his survivability and escaping abilities were extremely strong. He wasn't someone to be trifled with. Humph. Monarch Chi, whose voice was sharp. Resistance Wind. If it was during normal times, big brother, and I wouldn't be bothered to come here. You brat, if you can't win, you would escape and even take revenge. But now, humph, big brother and I are very patient to play with you. Now we will give you two choices. First, hand over the stone mirror. Second, we will kill you and obtain the stone mirror. Resistance Wind City Lord's expression changed slightly. What stone mirror? Who did you hear it from? I don't even know what the stone mirror is. While he was speaking, he had already activated the enormous array that he had set up in the entire Resistance Wind City. Hong, a dazzling golden light shot up into the sky from various parts of the city. The devils from the Chief Devil Cliff are here. Everyone, flee for your lives. Resistance Wind City Lord's voice reverberated throughout every single part of the city. However, he had already transformed into a gust of wind and fled noiselessly. He didn't have any wishful thinking, because the other party had mentioned the name Stone Mirror. Clearly, they knew that he had this treasure. This treasure was the crux of his ancient cultivation. How could he be willing to give it to others? As for this city, in his heart, it wasn't even worth the 10,000th of the stone mirror. Chapter 898. Run! Chief Devil Cliff. Run for our lives. the entire Resistance Wind City was in a state of panic. Although the two chiefs of Chief Devil Cliff were powerful, the laws of the 5 sacred worlds were too powerful. Once they were far away, ordinary experts would not be able to see clearly and would not know what was happening. But the City Lord's voice transmission through the array had reverberated everywhere, allowing everyone to know of it. Chief Devil Cliff's reputation was too great. Amidst the countless cultivators that were fleeing, Dongbua Shueying was already standing on a street that was 10,000 miles away from the two chiefs of Chief Devil Cliff. His gaze landed on the Black Chief Devil, who was leading the group. With a thought, the dark world descended from the void and enveloped that Black Chief Devil. Black Chief Devil and Monarch Chi, who did not place the others in Resistance Wind City in their eyes. Their target was only one, Resistance Wind City Lord. Traversing through the void to escape? The array that enveloped the entire city was activated, causing the void to tremble and the aura to become chaotic. Resistance Wind City Lord also took the chance to flee through the void. However, Monarch Chi, who sneered, he was someone who could tear a spatial tunnel at the Unity Realm. He could easily chase after him. Furthermore, they had prepared a unique treasure for this operation. Although they were conversing earlier, the two of them had already executed their unique treasures and branded their imprints on the body of Resistance Wind City Lord. No matter how Resistance Wind City Lord fled, the two of them would definitely be able to catch up to him. We must obtain the stone mirror. Chase! Black Chief Devil and Monarch Chi, who immediately moved. But suddenly the surroundings quietened down. The dark world descended from the void and enveloped Black Chief Devil. There were a total of 600 layers of membrane in this dark world. With so many layers of dark worlds stacking on top of each other, the surrounding laws were starting to be affected. Black Chief Devil and Monarch Chi, who revealed looks of astonishment. Black Chief Devil's blood-red eyes were filled with hesitation. 600 layers of dark world were destroyed. Black Chief Devil had completely endured this terrifying might. Is that him? Monarch Chi, who had already scouted the surroundings, and his gaze instantly landed on the white-robed young man 10,000 miles away. Dongbua Shueying was also looking at Monarch Chi, who, their gazes met, and a smile appeared on Dongbua Shueying's face. I've long heard that the two leaders of Chief Devil Cliff are quite strong and have killed countless people. Today, I'm here to experience for myself and send the two of you to your deaths. Accompanied by a roar, more than half of the Black Chief Demon's body was destroyed, and his armor was broken. However, it was growing rapidly, and his head was the first to form. His blood-red eyes stared at Dongbua Shueying, filled with fear. I was too careless. With such an attack, I'm afraid it would only take a few more hits to kill me. He didn't die. Dongbua Shueying furrowed his brows. In order to prevent his enemies from dodging the attack, he did not use the Blade of Sky Punishment. Instead, he used the multi-layered World of Darkness. This was because after the multi-layered World of Darkness descended, it would directly envelop the enemy. It was a move that could not be dodged at all. As for the Blade of Sky Punishment, even though its power was stronger, and he could use 3 of them at the same time, the Blade of Sky Punishment could be blocked and dodged. According to his estimations, the multi-layered World of Darkness should be able to kill Black Chief Demon in one move. But in reality, the defenses of the other party were stronger than expected. Second brother, let's work together. Black Chief Demon was completely infuriated. Alright, kill. Monarch Chi, whose eyes were filled with killing intent. They were not in a rush to chase after Resistance Wind City Master, because Resistance Wind City Master already had an imprint on his body. They would be able to chase after him later on, so it was better to eliminate this person first. Many silk strands flew out from the surface of Monarch Chi, whose body. These translucent silk strands wrapped around Dongbua Shueying. A great blade appeared in Black Chief Demon's hand as he charged over furiously. Being able to resist against 600 layers of dark world, Black Chief Demon's close combat skills were extremely terrifying. Furthermore, he had the domain of Monarch Chi, who most 5th-level Star Pagoda experts could not resist against it. The distant Dongbua Shueying snorted coldly. Those incoming silk strands were all blocked. In terms of domain techniques, Monarch Qi who cultivated in the ancient cultivation, but Dongbui Shuang cultivated in the plate ripple diagram. When comparing the two, it was clear that Dongbui Shui Ying's plate ripple diagram was stronger by a level. Black Chief Demon was slightly startled. How is this possible? Usually, he would have the support of his domain to kill in all directions. But now his second brother's domain was being suppressed? Hong hong hong. At the same time the surging ripples were blocking against those silk strands, they were also suppressing Black Chief Demon, causing him to feel as though he had fallen into a swamp. Black Chief Demon, it is better for you to die. Dongbui Shuang coldly looked at the other party. Hua, hua, hua. The three huge illusory worlds dissipated, turning into three dazzling blades. These three dazzling blades descended from the illusory world into reality, causing the world energy to ripple and form a surging maelstrom. But at the moment when the blades completely condensed, the surroundings became silent. The energy ripples in the space were completely suppressed. The countless silk strands controlled by Monarch Qi, who were suppressed even more. Sky punishment edges. 3 sky punishment edges slashed towards Black Chief Devil from 3 different directions. Black Chief Devil's expression completely changed. Monarch Qi who was beside him, also felt his heart trembling. The two of them could feel the threat brought by the sky punishment edges. They understood that dodging the sky punishment edges was very difficult, and it would be even more difficult to survive after being slashed by them. My body will definitely not be able to withstand it. Black Chief Demon understood this point. Hence, he did not dare to hesitate this time. He gritted his teeth and activated his protective treasure. One could see a faint white light enveloping Black Chief Demon. Hong hong hong. 3 consecutive sky punishment edges struck Black Chief Demon. The white light on the surface of Black Chief Demon's body trembled slightly before returning to normal. He stood perfectly fine in midair, without a trace of injury. But Black Chief Demon did not have a trace of joy on his face. His eyes were filled with unwillingness and anger. I have finally been exposed. Black Chief Demon sighed inwardly. What? Dongbui Shuang, who was standing on the street with confidence, could not conceal the shock on his face. If the darkness bubble was said to have a restrictive effect, then the sky punishment edges were purely offensive. Its offensive power was even stronger than the Black Gourd's fireball. A total of 3 sky punishment edges. Even if he had cultivated the Void Walker to the 40th level, and was able to use the Mirage to protect his life, he would still lose his life if he was struck by 3 sky punishment edges. The other party withstood it? Looking at the faint white light on the surface of Black Chief Demon's body, Dongbui Shuang's heart surged with waves. Protective treasure? He had a protective treasure too. It was a protective talisman that was bestowed upon him as an inner hall elder of the Great Void Heaven Temple. This was personally refined by forefather Tianyu. The moment it was activated, he could even withstand a primal chaos realm giant for a period. This period was sufficient for the experts of the Great Void Heaven Temple to save him. But such a treasure was very precious. After all, its defensive power was extremely high. If one wanted to buy it, it would usually cost 2,000 to 3,000 Origin World rocks. But how could ordinary 5th-level Star Pagoda experts afford it? Hence, those who had it would usually have a huge superpower backing them. Black Chief Demon isn't under Jesu, Dongbui Shuang thought. On the surface, he doesn't belong to any superpower. There were 2 outcomes. First, Black Chief Demon was extremely lucky and obtained a protective treasure by chance. Or he spent a huge sum of Origin World rocks to buy a protective treasure. Second, Black Chief Demon was secretly relying on a huge superpower, and he was bestowed it in the dark. Usually, it was the 2 great religions who did not dare to publicize it. Hence, the moment such experts were discovered in the 3 great sacred worlds, they would immediately dispatch experts to investigate. They would check if there were any imprints on their souls. If there were none, then it was fine. The moment they discovered members of the 2 great religions, they would usually be killed without mercy. Star. Chapter 899. Kill the 2 leaders of Chief Devil Cliff. The reason why Dongbua Shuiying agreed to this deal was because according to the information, the other party wasn't from a major power. Under a sacred land, for example, Great Void Heaven Temple, Primogenita Island, Jade Light Sacred Territory, Blade Emperor City, etc. Firstly, they would be bestowed with protective treasures. If they couldn't kill the other party instantly, they would be able to activate the protective treasure. During the short period of time when the protective treasure was activated, the major powers would immediately send their experts over through ultra-long distance teleportation. If they angered the major powers, it was possible that the final realm existences would personally come to kill them. Secondly, if they managed to kill someone with a huge background, they wouldn't let it go so easily. Like the time when Dongbua Shuiying was assassinated, the Great Void Heaven Temple immediately investigated it. Ultimately, Myriad World Tavern Lord's unfathomable strength obstructed the investigation. Only then did the matter drop. Even my Great Void Heaven Temple's information did not discover any major power behind Black Chief Devil and the rest. They didn't discover any protective treasure either. Dongbua Shuiying thought. But now Black Chief Devil suddenly used a protective treasure. More importantly, when I attacked the first time, the 600 layers of Dark World, Black Chief Devil took the risk of blocking it with his body, without using any protective treasure. As long as one's strength wasn't weak, they would be able to see the terrifying might of the 600 layers of Dark World. But Black Chief Devil didn't use it the first time. Why? If the origin of the protective treasure is so righteous, why didn't he use it the first time? Dongbua Shuiying thought. To be so secretive, there is an 80 to 90% chance that he is from one of the 2 great religions. I really didn't expect that I would actually meet such a big fish. Dongbua Shuiying's eyes lit up. By the side, Monarch Qi, who was also slightly stunned. He looked at Black Chief Devil, who was glowing with a faint light. This was his life and death brother. But he didn't know that Black Chief Devil actually had a protective treasure. He hid it from me too. And when facing the first attack, he chose to block it with his body, without using any protective treasure. This time, he knew that he would die if he didn't block it, so he activated his protective treasure? Why are you so cautious? Are you from the 2 great religions? Monarch Qi, who felt a chill in his heart. Even though he had a ferocious reputation, and was a great devil in the myriad ancient sacred world, he was still a devil that could dominate a region. But when it involved the 2 great sects, he was terrified. That was because the high and mighty Jiezu and Wuzhu didn't care about them at all. Jiezu allowed the people under his command to fight and kill each other. But if they were members of the 2 great sects, Jiezu wouldn't show the slightest bit of mercy. Against the 2 great sects, the 3 great sacred worlds would definitely stand together. Whoosh! Monarch Qi, who no longer had the will to fight. He did not hesitate to flee. However, under the suppression of the plate ripple diagram, Dongbua Shuiying immediately discovered his movements. Whoosh! Whoosh! With a thought, Dongbua Shuiying sent out another 3 sky punishment edges, enveloping Monarch Qi, who from different directions. Hua! Monarch Qi, whose body was originally blurry like a shadow. At this moment, this shadow suddenly transformed into a surging stream of water. Hong hong hong. The 3 sky punishment edges slashed through the surging stream of water. Even though the stream of water was slashed into pieces, it easily merged together and escaped. This scene caused Dongbua Shuiying's eyes to shrink. What a powerful survival technique. He was too low profile. Chief Devil Cliff had 2 leaders. The big leader was extremely famous while the second leader was much more low profile. Usually, the second leader would only display his domain to help the big leader. Even though the intelligence did mention that Monarch Qi, whose survival techniques were amazing, as to how amazing, there were no detailed descriptions. Because Monarch Qi, who had never met an opponent on the level of Dongbua Shuiying, thus he had never fully displayed his survival techniques. He actually withstood the sky punishment edges. His survival techniques are much stronger than mine. Dongbua Shuiying exclaimed. Void walkers who were proficient in voidification might be good at survival, but they would definitely not be able to withstand 3 sky punishment edges. Who? Monarch Qi, whose speed was fast. After flying to a distance, he tore a spatial passage apart. Dongbua Shuang watched from afar and did not destroy the spatial passage. Even if he destroyed it, the other party could escape even further. Dongbua Shuang still had to pay attention to Black Chief Devil. With such formidable survival techniques, the two great religions should not have controlled this second leader, right? Dongbua Shuang guessed. The stronger a cultivator was, the more he would resist being controlled by the two great religions. After all, they were being controlled from the soul. From then on, they would lose their sense of self and become loyal soldiers of the two great religions. It was still relatively easy for the ancient sacred religion and ancestor mother religion to control Black Chief Devil. After all, Black Chief Devil's combat style was more direct. As for Monarch Chi Hu, his domain, survival, and escaping abilities, it was much harder to control him. But there will definitely be experts under Jie Zhu to investigate Monarch Chi Hu, Dongbua Shuang thought. Even though many thoughts flashed through his mind, they only lasted for a moment. Dongbua Shuang turned his gaze towards Black Chief Devil. Black Chief Devil was still trying to escape, yet under the influence of the plate ripple diagram, he was pulled out after tunneling through the void. Protective treasure? Let me see how long this protective treasure can last. Dongbua Shuang coldly laughed. The sky punishment edges descended once again. 3 sky punishment edges directly bombarded the body of Black Chief Devil. In the distant 7-star oceanic sacred world, within the great void heaven temple. Inquisitive Sky Hall Master, I am Dongbua Shuang. I have discovered an expert in the myriad ancient sacred world called Black Chief Devil. I suspect that he is a member of the two great religions. Dongbua Shuang transmitted over. I am currently in the Resistance Wind City. The silver-haired inquisitive Sky Hall Master sat on his throne. His black eyes were looking at the void. Separated by an endless distance, he was able to see the myriad ancient sacred world, the Resistance Wind City, and that battle. You suspect that he is a member of the two great religions, just because of his protective treasure? Could it be a protective treasure that he obtained by chance or bought? Inquisitive Sky Hall Master was carefully observing that Black Chief Devil. At the same time, he was able to investigate the identity of Black Chief Devil through the internal intelligence of the Great Void Heaven Temple. He was an expert at the 5th level Star Pagoda strength. In the past, he has never revealed himself. My Great Void Heaven Temple did not discover anything at all. That is not normal. Previously, he even took the risk of using his body to resist. I am more than 80% certain that he is a member of the two great religions. Dongbua Shuang transmitted over. Inquisitive Sky Hall Master was observing Black Chief Devil. But closely following that, he noticed the sky punishment edges that were attacking Black Chief Devil. This is, with Inquisitive Sky Palace Master's eyesight, even though he was watching from afar, and was unable to truly feel the might of the heavenly punishment edge, he was still able to sense it. Inquisitive Sky Palace Master was able to deduce that the Black Chief Demon had been forced to activate his protective treasure, and that the heaven punishment edge had caused the surrounding spatial energy to freeze time and time again. Moreover, he knew that Dongbua Shuang had cultivated the dark world. Naturally, he quickly guessed that this was the second style of the world of darkness, Heaven Punishment Edge. Dongbua Shuang has mastered Heaven Punishment Edge? 6th level Star Pagoda Strength? Dongbua Shuang reached the 6th level Star Pagoda Strength? The Inquisitive Sky Palace Master's heart rumbled. In his opinion, this was even more pleasant surprise than discovering a spy from the two great sections. After all, although the Great Void Heaven Temple had produced some very powerful experts in its history, some had fallen, and some had become temple masters. But currently, this batch of Inner Hall elders were all at the 5th level Star Pagoda. This was one of the regrets of the Great Void Heaven Temple. But now, there was a 6th level Star Pagoda expert among the Inner Hall elders? Sky Punishment Edge. That's right, it is the Sky Punishment Edge. This level of power is unquestionable. Inquisitive Sky Palace Master carefully observed from afar. The more he observed, the brighter his eyes became. Chapter 900. Forefather, Elder Dongbo has already reached the 6th level Star Pagoda strength. Inquisitive Sky Hall Master immediately reported this matter upwards. He also informed Jiezu about how Black Chief Devil was suspected to be a member of the two great religions. After all, this matter involved the two great religions, and the three great sacred worlds were relatively united. Dongbo Shuang? Forefather Tianyu was slightly startled. Right, he is currently in the myriad ancient sacred world. Inquisitive Sky Hall Master explained everything in detail. Ha ha ha. That time when he was a true god ruler, he grasped the apocalyptic second sword. I knew his future was boundless. And now, he has reached such an achievement. His comprehension ability in the Tao of Mirage is even higher than the Tao of Slaughter. Forefather Tianyu was in a good mood. He had established the Great Void Heaven Temple and was doing his best to nurture the disciples under him. Naturally, he was happy to meet someone with sufficient talent. For him to have such strength at the Unity Realm, he would likely reach the 8th level Star Pagoda strength in the future, when he stepped into the Primal Chaos Realm. It was even possible for him to reach the 9th level strength. The gap between Primal Chaos Giants was huge. Weaklings could only reach the 6th level, and veterans like Heaven Weeping Sect Master could reach the 7th level. Experts like Inquisitive Sky Hall Master could reach the 8th level. The 8th level was also the limit of ordinary Primal Chaos experts. To reach the 9th level, the difficulty was comparable to reaching the 7th level at the Unity Realm. In the entire Great Void Heaven Temple, there was only one Primal Chaos expert who reached the 9th level, Primal Chaos Hall Master. He had even reached the level of a final realm existence in terms of offensive power. Reaching this stage with a Primal Chaos body was something even Cosmos gods could not do. If he wanted to deal against Heaven Weeping Sect Master, he could simply kill him in a single move. The gap of 2 levels in the Star Pagoda strength was a gap that could sweep through all enemies. Of course, there was another Primal Chaos Giant who transcended logic. He was Luo City Lord. The Star Pagoda was created by Lord Locheng, and a large number of Cosmos gods were suppressed by this Primal Chaos Giant, Lord Locheng. Naturally, there were also Blade Emperor, Wuzhu Jiezu, and a few others who could suppress Lord Locheng. I wonder when this brat will reach the Primal Chaos realm. Forefather Tianyu's incarnation appeared at the side. He was also watching the battle through the void image that Inquisitive Sky Hall Master had projected. With his speed, I believe it will be very soon, the Inquisitive Sky Palace Master said. It's not that easy. It is very difficult to cross realms. The difficulty of stepping into the Primal Chaos realm is much higher than the bottlenecks he encountered in the past. Forefather Tianyu said, there were those who were at the 6th level of the Unity realm and had been stuck there for a long time. In the end he perished. One could see how difficult it was to step into the Primal Chaos realm. But there were only 2 Unity Realm's 7th level experts in history, and both of them broke through to the Primal Chaos realm. Clearly, to geniuses at this level, breaking through to the Primal Chaos realm was not difficult. The Great Void Heaven Temple was watching from afar, and there were experts from Jiezu's side who had received the news as well. They weren't in a hurry to act. They were waiting. Would the 2 great sects send experts to save the Black Chief Demon? In the sky above the Resistance Wind City, the cultivators who were originally fleeing in panic stopped. They were watching the battle from afar. A white-robed young man stood in midair. Many blades appeared from the void and hacked down on the body of the Black Chief Demon, who was covered in a faint light. That power made the cultivators tremble from the bottom of their hearts. This was an instinctive tremble, but Dongbo Shuang had relied on the plate ripple diagram to protect the Resistance Wind City below, preventing the shockwaves from the battle. And at this moment, even though the Black Chief Demon had a protective treasure, he could not escape at all. I can't hold on any longer. The Black Chief Demon could feel the energy of the protective treasure on his body being consumed. A look of relief gradually appeared on his face. Even though he understood that the ancient sacred religion did not send any experts to save him, he did not feel resentment. Sacrificing for the Sacred Master was a great honor. Sacred Master, The Black Chief Demon formed a seal with his hands. He called out Sacred Master, with a pure and holy expression. His body started dissipating into nothingness. By the side, Dongbua Shuang watched this scene. He waved his hand to keep the treasures left behind by the other party. So he is from the ancient sacred religion. I wonder when he was soul-controlled. Far away in the ancient sacred world, there were also primal chaos realm saints watching this scene from afar. They did not send any experts over, because they were clear that the Great Void Heaven Temple behind Dongbua Shuang and Jiezu, from the myriad ancient sacred world, would definitely be paying attention to this place. If they went over now, they would be risking their lives. After all, this was the territory of Jiezu and Wuxia. Unless the Sacred Master personally descended, none from the ancient sacred religion could save Black Chief Demon. Dongbua Shuang from the Great Void Heaven Temple has actually reached the strength of the 6th floor of Star Tower. But it seems to be the technique of the Dark World Master in the past. He is quite formidable in terms of offense, but other aspects are ordinary. These saints from the ancient sacred religion did not care about the current Dongbua Shuang. They only felt that if they allowed him to grow, the Great Void Heaven Temple might have another primal chaos realm giant in the future. Such matters were not something the high and mighty Sacred Master would care about. However, the saints still noticed it. He is growing so fast. Within the palace at the bottom of the lake, the green-robed Saint Wang Ming sat cross-legged in the cultivation room. Many water droplets were floating around him. A smile appeared on his face. Very good. This should make some of the saints in the religion feel threatened, right? Inner hall elders at the 5th level Star Pagoda strength are very common and not worth mentioning. But reaching the 6th level, when he becomes a primal chaos realm giant, he would at least be at the 8th level. He would be a great enemy of us saints. The ancient sacred world was the biggest among the 5 great sacred worlds. It had the highest number of primal chaos realm giants. But there were naturally differences in strength, and Saint Wang Ming was one of the weaker ones. In terms of strength, he could only be considered at the 6th level Star Pagoda strength. Compared to Dongbua Shuang, there was a limit to how strong he was. I should find more old fellows to help me. It should be possible for those old fellows to come up with a plan to eradicate this Dongbua Shuang. Saint Wang Ming had always been thinking of how to deal with Dongbua Shuang. His little brother was his most important relative. Now that his little brother was killed by the enemy, how could he not take revenge? Hence, Saint Wang Ming began visiting many saints within the ancient sacred world. He was trying to pull strings and build bridges. He had no choice. It was impossible for him to kill someone at the level of Dongbua Shuang alone, because Dongbua Shuang would immediately activate his protective treasure the moment he was ambushed and report. Who knew? Even Forefather Tian you might kill his way out. Hence, the moment he acted, he had to come up with a good plan and succeed in one fell swoop. How did those geniuses who got through the 6th level Star Pagoda in history die? Many of them were plotted against by the 2 great religions. Hung Long Long, outside the Resistance Wind City, a figure appeared in the distorted sky. He was the silver-haired black-skinned male, Inquisitive Sky Hall Master. But this was merely an incarnation of his. Inquisitive Sky Hall Master. Dongbua Shuang saw him from afar. He immediately flew over. Why did Hall Master rush over personally? You have created such a huge trouble. Even though the ancient sacred religion did not save that black chief devil, they are definitely watching in the dark. They have noticed your strength. Even though they might not act against you, my Great Void Heaven Temple has no choice but to guard against them, Inquisitive Sky Hall Master said. In history, there have been some with potential in our 3 great sacred worlds, who were killed by the ancient sacred religion. Dongbua Shuang felt his heart tightening. He had to be careful. Even though he felt that his survival capabilities were strong, there were many saints within the ancient sacred religion. If they sent someone at the level of Primal Chaos Hall Master, the moment he appeared, he could kill Shuang in a single move. Even his protective treasures would be useless. Shuang might be able to resist against ordinary Primal Chaos giants for a while, but against Primal Chaos Hall Master it was a joke. After all, Even cosmos gods were limited in strength compared to primal chaos hall master. Chapter 901. Inquisitive Sky Hall Master threw a storage wristband over and transmitted. Old ancestor asked me to send this over. It is a good thing for you to roam the myriad ancient sacred world. Wuzhu and Jiezu are both here. You just need to be careful of some treacherous plots. Old ancestor sent this treasure for you to protect yourself. You can ponder over it. Amen. Dongbo Shuang did not reject and received it. Oh right, Jiezu's sect sent news. They investigated the other leader of Chief Devil Cliff, Monarch Chi Hu, and confirmed that he wasn't a member of the two great sections. After interrogating him, there were no problems. Inquisitive Sky Hall Master said. What happened after the interrogation? Kill him? Or release him? Dongbo Shuang asked. Release him. Inquisitive Sky Hall Master smiled. Why? You think that Monarch Chi Hu should be killed because he killed countless people? What a pity. This is Jiezu's territory. Killing and devouring are common here. After Jiezu's sect found no problems with Monarch Chi Hu, they naturally released him. Dongbo Shuang frowned inwardly. If Monarch Chi Hu was killed, then he would have fulfilled his promise. A pity that he was released. He still had to find a chance to deal with Monarch Chi Hu in the future. With Monarch Chi Hu's survivability, it wouldn't be easy to kill him. Out of the three matters of the transaction, only Monarch Chi Hu was hiding in Chief Devil Cliff. After this battle, he would probably not come out for a short period of time. Dongbo Shuang was wandering around myriad ancient sacred world. He was not in a rush to return to his hometown Cosmos, because the transaction had come to an end. His wife was in closed-door cultivation. He couldn't just wait here like an idiot. Hence, he decided to start his ancient cultivation. With his current strength, cultivating would cause a huge commotion. His hometown Cosmos was still too weak. If he was not careful, an epoch might end, and the next epoch would be born. Hence, it was better for him to cultivate outside. Ancient cultivation. Dongbo Shuang pondered. This was the most ancient type of cultivation. In the primitive ancient sacred world, the weak living beings wanted to become stronger. They had to learn how to use the power of heaven and earth, in the primitive ancient sacred world, to nurture their bodies, and gradually step onto the path of ancient cultivation. Even after that, there were some outstanding people who created other systems that were widely spread, such as the bloodline cultivation system, the ancestor mother system, the hex cultivation system, the strongest warrior system, and many others. Even so, it was impossible to conceal the amazement of ancient cultivators. Ultra-long-distance teleportation. Observe any part of the primal chaos void of the 5 great sacred worlds. Even after becoming a void god, he could still unleash the avatar technique. Prophecy. Body transformation. Change the past. Reincarnation. There were all sorts of unimaginable abilities that other cultivation systems could not achieve, yet ancient cultivation could. Thus, many powerful cultivators would also cultivate ancient cultivation. This was because ancient cultivation's talent was very important. Without good talent, there was a limit to how much one could cultivate later on. If he was lucky enough to have great talent, he would definitely put in all his effort to cultivate. Awakening my talent, the beginning of transcendence. Dongbo Shuang laid down an alert array deep within a mountain. This array was formed using the mirage, plate ripple diagram, and the profound mysteries of the void. Even primal chaos realm giants who were stronger than him might not be able to match him in the Tao of ripple and mirage. In the aspect of the void, after he could teleport through an ultra-long distance, the alert array could directly permeate through the core of the void. It was too difficult to pass through the alert array stealthily. He then began attempting to cultivate. If he was weak, the first step of ancient cultivation would be easy. Dongbo Shuang was too powerful. His soul and body were too strong. Hence, awakening his talent had become the hardest step. Hong! Dongbo Shuang, who was seated cross-legged, suddenly felt the grand world energy being absorbed into his body. He completely relaxed his body and soul, allowing the world energy to fuse into his body under the spiritual awakening technique. The spiritual awakening technique was also known as the awakening technique, opening heaven technique, and many other names. It was perfected by the earliest generations of ancient cultivation after experiencing many failures. Currently, it was the most mature version. Under the guidance of the spiritual awakening technique, one could more effectively dig out the potential of one's body and soul, ultimately awakening one's strongest talent. Naturally, there were ancient cultivators who awakened more than one talent. Having more talent did not mean one was strong. More importantly, it depended on how far one could walk on the Tao of talent. There were no worries. It was a piece of emptiness. He could not feel his body, and his soul was incomparably relaxed. The range of his senses continued to expand. He sensed the deep mountain forest he was in, and he also sensed the vast grassland outside the deep mountain. His soul's senses continued to expand, and continued to expand in all directions. The range of his soul's senses had far surpassed the range that any secret technique he had used could detect. Even if he used the plate ripple diagram, he would not even be able to reach 1,000th of his current range. However, when using the spiritual awakening technique, one had to be completely immersed in it, digging out the potential of one's soul. At that moment, one's soul would seemingly become one with the world, allowing one to sense an incomparably vast area. It was not suitable for combat. It was as though a spring had suddenly gushed out from a desolate desert. It was also as though an oil lamp had suddenly lit up in the endless darkness. The hidden potential within Dongbua Ying's soul and body had been dug out, forming a complete talent. Deep in the mountains, Dongbua Ying, who had been sitting cross-legged in a wooden house for over 10,000 years, suddenly emitted a faint red aura that spread out in all directions. This aura had a very strong enticement. Once one smelled it, those with a weaker mental state would uncontrollably sink into an illusory realm. Dongbua Ying slowly opened his eyes. "I've awakened." Dongbua Ying immediately began to inspect the changes to his soul and body. He could not help but feel a little surprised. Enchantment technique? Both his soul and body had undergone some changes. The aura emitted by his body was extremely enticing, and the aura emitted by his soul was able to naturally lead others into an illusory realm. It did not have any direct combat capabilities. It was purely an illusory technique. Dongbua Ying could not help but shake his head and laugh. It seems like I do have some talent in the mirage realm. Even ancient cultivators ended up with such a talent. Amen. How should I cultivate next? Dongbua Ying pondered. Talent was definitely there. He would need to think about his future path. There were many paths, and if he was nurtured well, his strength would naturally increase. This talent is because I am born with the ability to control illusory realms. My soul would also be stronger than others of the same level. Dongbua Ying nodded. In that case, I shall choose the Cinnabar inheritance. Cinnabar. That was the name of a mutated beast. It was a mutated beast that specialized in controlling illusory realms. The Cinnabar inheritance was an inheritance that Dongbua Ying discovered amidst the books left behind by Emperor Juyun. Even though it was considered middle tier, it was the most suitable for him. This inheritance could allow him to reach the primal chaos realm. As for the higher cosmos god, how many cosmos gods were there from the primitive ancient sacred world until now? And how many ancient cultivation inheritances did they have? There were too few ancient cultivation inheritances that could reach the cosmos god realm. He only knew of 3, and they were not suitable for him. Many cosmos gods have opened their own Tao paths, like Wu Zu and Ancestor Tsang. Even if the Cinnabar inheritance is only at the primal chaos realm, I can still open my own Tao path in the future and raise it to the cosmos god realm. Dongbua Ying thought. He was quite satisfied with this inheritance. It was most suitable for him, and would help him the most. Chapter 902. Cinnabar, a mutated beast from the primitive ancient sacred world. Its entire body was fiery red, and it had the appearance of a bird. When it flapped its wings, it would release an aura that would cause anyone who was slightly weaker to fall into an endless dreamscape. Often, it would stay in one spot and cause the surrounding area to fall into an illusory realm. If it was in a good mood, it could release those who fell into the illusory realm. If it was unlucky, it could control the souls of those who fell into the illusory realm forever. This inheritance can release an extremely wide range of illusory realm. Dongbua Shuang thought. But similarly, among the inheritances that are suitable for me, this is the one that is the most helpful to my soul. For the illusory realm to be large enough, one's soul had to be strong enough. Dongbua Shuang did not pursue the mysteriousness of the illusory realm, nor did he pursue the benefits to his body. He only sought one thing: the stronger the soul, the better. A strong soul was helpful to cultivation. During battle, for example, he could execute 3 sky punishment edges. If his soul was strong, he might be able to execute more sky punishment edges. This was also an increase in strength. If he was weak, he might pursue a visible increase in strength. What Dongbua Shuang cared about was the auxiliary aspect of this inheritance. In the following days, Dongbua Shuang first gathered some resources through the 7-star Oceanic Pavilion. These were the resources required for Cinnabar's inheritance to cultivate to the pinnacle of the Unity Realm. It cost him over 900 Origin World rocks. It was no wonder ancient cultivators placed such importance on resources and treasures. After all, without resources, even if one comprehended it, they would not be able to break through. Greenpung Sect, Back Mountain, within the cultivation room of the Supreme Elder's cave residence. Dongbua Shuang was currently cultivating here. His hometown cosmos was not suitable for him to cultivate. On the other hand, with regards to his wife's cultivation, if he were to watch from the side, he would always be worried. Thus, he might as well wait for his wife's news in the myriad ancient sacred world. His wife also had a communication treasure. She could use it to send messages to him. He had killed quite a number of experts, so he had quite a number of communication treasures. A red aura pervaded the surface of Dongbua Shuang's body. In the air behind him, a bird with fiery red feathers could be faintly seen spreading its wings. It was the vermilion nightmare phenomenon. The ancient cultivator has reached the true God sovereign level. Dongbua Shuang opened his eyes and revealed a joyful expression. The fiery red feathered bird behind him swiftly fused into his body. Your cultivation speed isn't bad. You managed to reach the true God ruler realm in 10 years. Things will be slightly troublesome from now on. Cinnabar's inheritance was still very weak. However, Dongbua Shuang could feel that the strength of his soul had increased by close to 10%. He believed that the improvement would only become more and more obvious in his future cultivation. Chi. Dongbua Shuang loosened his right hand, and a large amount of powder fell from his right hand. It's true that I'm consuming rare treasures to replenish myself. Why was the talent of ancient cultivators becoming more and more heaven-defying? Naturally, it was because he had absorbed precious treasures from the outside world. Snow Eagle, when are you coming back? Suddenly, a message came through the transmission token. Shuang suddenly quivered. I'll be back soon. I'll be there soon. Hometown Cosmos, Black Fog Sea, Dongbua Monarch Residence. Within the palace hall, Jing Qiu, who was dressed in a dark blue robe, stood up. Although a single thought would allow her to gain a large amount of understanding towards the Tao, she was no longer in the mood to cultivate. She could see the most basic laws of the heaven and earth operating. She understood what this meant. I'm actually able to transcend. Jing Qiu was somewhat dazed. Transcend? That was too difficult. Her father, Monarch Imo Shui, ultimately failed and died. She had also experienced reincarnation. With the help of her husband, Dongbua Shuang, she was already stuck at a bottleneck. It was her husband who risked his life to enter the primal chaos void, risking his life to bring back extremely precious treasures. This time she finally broke through, although her husband said that he could cultivate for 300 million years. But she broke through in 8 million years. Transcend eternal. Jing Qiu walked to the palace door, and the door automatically opened. Jing Qiu looked at the entire monarch residence and the grass. She immediately took out her transmission token and sent out a message. Snow Eagle, when are you coming back? In the blink of an eye, the starry sky distorted. A figure walked out from within. He was none other than Dongbui Shuang. Jingqiu. Dongbui Shuang immediately walked over. He carefully looked at his wife. "I've finally grasped the laws of the heaven and earth." Jingqiu merely said a single sentence before lightly hugging Dongbui Shuang. She rested her head on Dongbui Shuang's chest. Her emotions were in turmoil. She was not calm at all. All sorts of emotions were surging. Transcending eternity was something cultivators desired because it represented lifespan. Even cosmos gods who stood high above would think of ways to search for treasures that could allow them to transcend for the sake of their loved ones. Anything that could allow them to transcend directly was a priceless treasure that was more precious than the life of a primal chaos giant. "Father," Jingqiu murmured. She had cultivated many times, only to despair again and again. It was the same for her father. And now she succeeded. It's just that her father was no longer around. Time passed. In the distance, Dongbui Qingyao and Dongbui Yu saw the scene of their parents leaning on each other. They did not come over to disturb them. Only after a long time did Jingqiu regain her emotions. She let go of Dongbui Shuang. "Are you all right?" Dongbui Shuang chuckled as he looked at his wife. At this moment, he felt that the surrounding colors had become brighter. The starry sky had become resplendent and beautiful. "Amen," Jingqiu answered. "I have yet to come out from the river of time." Saying that, she looked to the side. Wang. In front of her, a vast river of time that was hidden beneath the ordinary world appeared. Many beings were currently moving within the river of time, and there were even more beings deep within the river of time. Amidst the countless beings, there was a huge female figure. She was the biggest being in this section of the river of time. That was Jingqiu. She looked exactly the same. "Come out." Jingqiu sent a thought. With the assistance of the laws of heaven and earth, the gigantic figure of the woman flew out. Although the waters of the river of time wanted to drag her back, they were unable to do so. Waves surged as the figure flew towards Jingqiu, infused into her body. From then on, she had truly transcended. The river of time could no longer restrict her life. She transcended and became eternal. Dongbui Shuang watched this scene from the side. He could not help but smile. This was a scene he longed to see. When his parents, little brother, Uncle Zong, and Uncle Tong left one by one, he could no longer tolerate the departure of his wife and children. That way, what was the point of him living alone? It was too lonely. His daughter, Dongbui Qingyao, had long transcended and stepped into the primal chaos void. His luck was not bad since he did not lose his life in the primal chaos void. He was fortunate enough to enter the Great Void Heaven Temple earlier and cultivate until now. At this moment, Dongbui Shuang felt more satisfied than becoming a cosmos god, because no matter what happened in the future, he would at least have the company of his true love. "Snow Eagle, I haven't asked you before. What is the value of the scarlet cloud pomegranate core you let me eat?" Jingqiu turned around and asked. She guessed that it should be extraordinary, though she did not ask about it previously. Now that she transcended, she wanted to ask about it. "You can guess." Dongbui Shuang chuckled. "It must be extremely high. Not as high as you, Star." Chapter 903. In the blink of an eye. It had been 300,000 years since Jingqiu transcended. Myriad ancient sacred world. Within the Taoist elders' cavern-dwelling cultivation room, a joss stick was lit. Its fragrance pervaded the entire cultivation room. A white-robed Dongbui Shuang was seated cross-legged on a praying mat. He was currently cultivating the ancient cinnabar inheritance. A huge fiery red bird illusion tunneled out from the body of Dongbui Shuang. It then spread its wings, causing a fiery red aura to spread out in all directions. Within the fiery red aura, there seemed to be a world floating. Suddenly, a resounding cry sounded within the cultivation room. It had even spread out of the cultivation room and easily affected the entire Greenpeng sect. All the cultivators in the Greenpeng sect felt their souls trembling slightly before returning back to normal. What is happening? It seems to have come from the cavern dwelling of the Taoist elder. Some of the Void God Unity Realm experts from the Greenpeng sect could barely discern it. They could not help but glance at it from afar. They could only discuss amongst themselves, and did not dare to disturb that mysterious Taoist elder. And within the cultivation room, following the first cry of this cinnabar illusion, the cinnabar illusion became much more corporeal. Dongbua Shuang also opened his eyes. The eyes of the cinnabar illusion behind him were filled with the same spirit as Dongbua Shuang. Cinnabar's 8 transformations. I finally stepped into the 4th transformation and reached the unity realm. Dongbua Shuang revealed a grin. Even though it was due to his high realm, his frightening speed in the ancient cultivation realm was sufficient to leave everyone speechless if it was spread out. Dongbua Shuang was clear that this was due to his high attainments in the Tao of Mirage. Even though the cinnabar inheritance involved many profound mysteries of the illusory realm and was slightly unique, Dongbua Shuang could easily comprehend it after pondering for a while. If there was a primal chaos realm giant who cultivated the Tao of Void cultivating in the Voidwalker lineage, his cultivation speed would be very fast. Unity realm. Now that I've reached this stage, I've truly condensed a complete cinnabar. Dongbua Shuang pondered. Next would be the 5th and 6th transformations. I would have to dig out all of cinnabar's potential. After that it would be the primal chaos realm. Cinnabar's inheritance. The early part of the legacy was very basic, and the later part was cinnabar's 8 transformations. The first transformation was to step into the Void God realm. The first 3 transformations were the Origin Birth realm. The middle 3 transformations were known as the Unity realm. The 7th and 8th transformations were the Primal Chaos realm. Cultivating it to the pinnacle. According to the description in the inheritance, one would be an absolute expert even amongst primal chaos giants. But he was still lacking slightly from the pinnacle. The unknown creator of the cinnabar inheritance seemed to have created the 9th transformation before, though he did not succeed. Cinnabar's 8 transformations. The first 6 transformations are to dig out all of the potential of cinnabar. As for the 7th transformation, it is to transform cinnabar from his core, allowing cinnabar to undergo a transformation. Dongbua Shuang revealed a grin. Very good. This is what I'm looking forward to. Transforming the core of his core. Actually, it was changing the structure of cinnabar. Cinnabar was formidable in 2 aspects. Firstly, the aura it emitted could cause others to be immersed in it. Secondly, it was the illusory realm world it naturally contained. Dongbua Shuang was not too satisfied with the illusory realm world structure it contained. Being an expert in the Tao of Mirage, he had reached the 6th level Star Pagoda level. This cinnabar would only reach the 5th level Star Pagoda strength if he dug out all of his potential. This was also due to his aura. Hence, to a great expert like Dongbua Shuang, it was entirely possible for him to improve the illusory realm world. Continuously modifying it, cinnabar would also undergo a transformation as he modified it. When it underwent a qualitative transformation, it would step into the primal chaos realm. Dongbua Shuang's attainments in the Tao of Mirage had actually touched upon the primal chaos realm. He had a vague understanding of it. But the ancient cultivation is indeed mysterious. Dongbua Shuang praised. He changed it himself. He merely altered the illusory realm world at the core of cinnabar. As for the other structures, they remain the same. These were naturally formed by the ancient cultivation. The most unique point of the ancient cultivation was that it depended on one's talent. It could not be like the hex cultivation or the laws and profound mysteries system, because there were many aspects that could not be understood. For instance, Inquisitive Sky Hall Master and the others could teleport through an ultra-long distance. They could even probe through an endless distance. The laws and profound mysteries involved were something they could not comprehend. Techniques that could slightly alter the history of the past could not be researched. It was the same for the cinnabar inheritance. Only the illusory realm world was something Dongbua Shuang could change. As for the form of cinnabar and the aura it emitted, these were naturally there. Because the illusory realm he released was sufficiently vast, cultivating this inheritance would be greatly beneficial to his soul. This was also the reason why Dongbua Shuang chose this inheritance. Currently, the strength of my soul is 60% stronger than before. Dongbo Shueying was startled. The strength of his soul. Even when using the Sky Punishment Edge, he could currently unleash 5 Sky Punishment Edges. Haha, I have already prepared all the treasures I need. I should not encounter any bottlenecks, even after cultivating to the 6 transformations of Cinnabar. Dongbo Shueying was looking forward to the day he reached the 6 transformations of Cinnabar. At that time, the strength of his soul would far surpass what it was now. At that time, he would be able to change the internal illusory realm structure of Cinnabar. This was because he could only change the core illusory realm structure after grasping Cinnabar's potential. Time to return. Dongbo Shueying stood up. The void in front of him distorted. With a single step, he entered it and left. When he reappeared, Dongbo Shueying had already arrived at the Black Fog Sea's sovereign residence. This was because he had intentionally set up a spatial mark within the Green Pung Sect's Supreme Elder's cave residence. Because his strength was too high, cultivating and experimenting would cause great pressure and damage to the cosmos. It was better for him to cultivate and experiment in the sacred world. As for comprehending, he could do so in his hometown cosmos. Father, Dongbo Yu, who was cultivating, raised his head and saw Dongbo Shueying in the distant sky. Cultivate well. Your mother has already opened her Tao. Dongbo Shueying smiled. Ever since Jingqiu transcended, the energy of the Scarlet Cloud Pomegranate Core could be maintained for hundreds of millions of years, even for an ordinary true god who had just transcended. She had already opened the Tao of Time after just 100,000 years of transcendence. Although it was not surprising that she could open her Tao so quickly, because she was cultivating in a state of super enlightenment. Dongbo Shueying had guessed that his wife would open the Tao of Frost. He did not expect her to open the Tao of Time. Dongbo Shueying's days were leisurely and carefree. He cultivated and comprehended. He was neither arrogant nor rash in his cultivation. Whenever he had some enlightenment, he would make a trip to the Green Pung Sect in the myriad ancient sacred world to test out his techniques or make breakthroughs in his ancient cultivation. Occasionally, he would accompany his wife, who had just come out of seclusion. He would also give pointers to his children and disciples. He would even preach publicly about the Tao. Rulers and paragons would all come to listen to his preaching. He was so carefree and unfettered as he watched the conflicts between the 5 great sacred worlds and the primal chaos void. But he was carefree. In the dark, there were some experts who were not willing for him to continue his carefree life. Ancient sacred world. Within a dark palace hall, a violet-robed Saint Wang Ming stood there. In front of him, the water in the pond gradually condensed into a figure. Wang Ming, why are you looking for me? This water figure was covered in silver light. It was emitting an unseen pressure. Even though it was just an incarnation, Saint Wang Ming still felt threatened, because this was an expert at the final realm of primal chaos. During the era of the primitive ancient sacred world, the description of the strength of primal chaos realm giants was slightly vague. The final realm of primal chaos referred to those who were extremely terrifying and had reached the final realm in certain aspects. In other words, they were at the 9th level Star Pagoda strength. The number of Star Pagoda levels was extremely accurate in determining the strength. It was currently the standard. Master Jia Ming. Saint Wang Ming was relatively respectful. I hope to find out the current location of the Inner Hall Elder Dongbo Shueying of the Great Void Heaven Temple. I hope for Master Jia Ming to help me. Here are 100 Origin World Rocks. Saying that, he obediently handed over the Origin World Rocks. In the entire ancient sacred religion, in terms of tracking, other than the high and mighty sacred master, Lord Jia Ming was ranked second. This was an extremely terrifying existence who could even see the future. Naturally, it was a limited future. I can try. Master Jia Ming softly nodded. Wang. The entire dark palace hall was distorted by an unseen energy. Saint Wang Ming obediently watched. He knew that this was the true body of Master Jia Ming executing a secret technique. This was also the place where Master Jia Ming cultivated. It's just that he would usually not appear with his true body, and would only send out his incarnations. While gradually, a blurred image was formed in midair. That seemed to be the scene of an enormous residence. Suddenly, this blurred image abruptly turned into a hunchbacked old man. The hunchbacked old man looked at it coldly. Indeed, as I expected. Your ancient sacred religion is really fools who dare to have designs on an elder of my great void heaven temple. Fortunately, I am prepared. Pung! The image suddenly shattered and dissipated. In the pool, there was a silver flowing figure. The faintly formed eyes contained a strand of cold intent. He growled, Tianyu, today it was slightly slower. Star. Chapter 904. In the ancient sacred religion, in terms of tracing techniques, Master Jiaming was second only to the sacred master. As the saying went, every profession had its own specialization. In terms of tracing, more than half of Cosmos gods could not match up to this 9th-level star pagoda expert, Master Jiaming. But the current leading character of the laws and profound mysteries system, Forefather Tianyu, was not one of them. The leader of the hex cultivation, Wuxia, was famous for his many techniques. Arrays, refinement, poison. He was ranked first amongst Cosmos gods in many aspects. Forefather Tianyu might not be comparable to Wuxia, but being the leading character of the laws and profound mysteries system, he had similarly great attainments in refinement, arrays, and other aspects. For instance, Forefather Tianyu could easily conceal his tracing techniques. Master Jiaming? Saint Wang Ming could not help but ask softly. The appearance of a cosmos god made him feel pressured. He was ranked at the bottom, even amongst primal chaos giants. This old man Tianyu is merely at the 3rd level amongst cosmos gods. He can't break through at all. Instead, he has researched quite a lot of complicated techniques. The water incarnation of Master Jiaming let out a cold voice. He has long prepared for it. He should have given the treasure used to conceal from me to that Dongbua Shuiying. Dongbua Shuiying would definitely bring it along with him. The moment I executed my secret technique, I would be discovered by Forefather Tianyu. What should we do now? Saint Wang Ming asked. How can we find the location of Dongbua Shuiying? You want to find where he is. If you have the guts, you can directly ask the sacred master to act. Master Jiaming glanced at him. Saint Wang Ming immediately revealed an awkward look. Sacred master? Even though he was loyal from the bottom of his heart, he was similarly filled with reverence. The high and mighty sacred master disliked having subordinates disturb him the most. Just like a brat at the Unity realm, asking the sacred master for help? Saint Wang Ming felt uneasy just thinking about it. He dared not imagine the reaction of the sacred master. How would I dare to disturb the sacred master for such a minor matter? Saint Wang Ming replied. Then there is no other way. Master Jiaming indifferently said. The ancient saint cult had made countless enemies, and there was no way the other forces would help the ancient saint cult track down Dongbua Shuiying. Even the other religion, the ancestor mother religion, was not on good terms with the ancient sacred religion, even though the 3 great sacred worlds were filled with killing intent towards them. The ancestor mother religion had always hoped for the death of the sacred master. Even if he concealed his identity and spent a huge amount of origin world stones to higher existences like Wuxia and Jade Light Master to help track him down, the moment they investigated, they would discover that Forefather Tianyu was hiding him. Under such circumstances, they would still give face to Forefather Tianyu. Actually, this Dongbua Shuiying is only at the Unity realm. Why should he care? Master Jiaming indifferently said. It isn't that easy for someone at the Unity realm to step into the primal chaos realm. Even if he breaks through, he would only reach the 8th level star pagoda strength. Master Jiaming was a 9th level star pagoda expert. Naturally, he had the right to look down on them. His cultivation speed is extremely fast, and he must not be underestimated. If he were to reach the primal chaos realm, he would at least be at the 8th level star pagoda strength. Maybe even higher. He would become a great enemy for the many saints of our ancient sacred religion. After all, there are only a few saints who could match up to Master Jiaming. Saint Wang Ming added. Amen. Master Jiaming indifferently said. All right, let me remind you all. Since that old man Tianyu is prepared, especially after I was discovered by him when I executed the secret technique. That Dongbua Shuiying will definitely be more careful and vigilant. It will be hard for your plans to be realized. You have to change your plans. We understand. Saint Wang Ming nodded. Go. Master Jia Ming indifferently ordered. Following that, his figure condensed from water dissipated. The water flowed back into the pool. Saint Wang Ming respectfully bowed before leaving. It was just that he felt unwilling in his heart. After all, he had spent Origin World Stones to hire Master Jia Ming, and ultimately failed. Even though the secret technique failed, it was impossible for Master Jia Ming to return the Origin World Stones. Hometown Cosmos, Black Fog Sea Monarch Residence. Dongbua Shuiying sat there watching the group of disciples sparring before him. Suddenly, he received a message through his communication talisman. It was from Forefather Tianyu. He checked through it. Ancient sacred religion? Dongbua Shuiying muttered inwardly. They are actually searching for my traces? Fortunately, that day when I fought against the great commander of Chief Devil Cliff, Inquisitive Sky Hall Master, had personally sent me some protective treasures. These protective treasures were temporarily bestowed. In the future, he would have to return them when he broke through to the primal chaos realm, because the total value of these treasures exceeded 5,000 Origin World Stones, and it wasn't easy to refine them. To the current him, they were extremely useful. But once he broke through to the primal chaos realm, they would no longer be useful to him. The rule of the Great Void Heaven Temple. Treasures had to be obtained by oneself. Hence, he was temporarily using them. Many thanks, Forefather. I will definitely be careful. Dongbua Shuiying replied through the communication talisman. Dongbua Shuiying did not care too much about it. He had absolute confidence in himself. Other than the precious protective treasures bestowed by Forefather Tianyu, his ultra-long distance teleportation allowed him to escape instantaneously. This method of escaping was something most cosmos gods could not stop. I have treasures bestowed by Forefather, and an ultra-long distance teleportation. Unless cosmos gods personally come, they can do nothing to me. Dongbua Shuiying was confident. But I still have to be careful. It isn't appropriate for me to reveal my ultra-long distance teleportation. A Unity Realm expert could teleport through an ultra-long distance? At the very least, it was not recorded in the public intelligence. The moment Dongbua Shuiying's ability to teleport through an ultra-long distance was revealed, it would most likely attract the attention of cosmos gods. They might even capture him and search through his soul and memories. Years passed. Days passed. Just like in the past, for the sake of letting his wife transcend, he felt a sense of urgency. He even went to the Palace Hall of Time to cultivate, turning a period of time into 100. Now that his wife had transcended, Dongbua Shuiying became leisurely. His mental state was completely different. He guided his children and disciples, researched the Tao of Mirage, Walker's hidden secret, plate ripple diagram, Cinnabar's inheritance. When he no longer felt a sense of urgency, such days were enjoyable. Ever since the ancient sacred religion failed to search for traces of him, they did not take any action. In the blink of an eye, another 5 million years passed. Woo! I finally comprehended the 6th transformation of the 8 transformations of Cinnabar. Dongbua Shuiying, who was located in the Black Fog Sea Monarch residence, suddenly comprehended it. He revealed a joyous look. He then took a step and used the ultra-long distance teleportation technique, directly teleporting into the cultivation room of the Green Peng Sect Taoist elder in the myriad ancient sacred world. He came and went stealthily, and none of the disciples of the Green Peng Sect knew of it. Within the cultivation room, a large number of red crystals and black wood were placed around Dongbua Shuiying. At that moment, strands of energy were attracted to the body of Dongbua Shuiying. Behind Dongbua Shuiying, that enormous fiery red god bird, Cinnabar, appeared. Its aura became stronger and stronger. Finally, all the red crystals and black wood turned into powder. These powder were impurities. Very soon, the fiery red god bird behind Dongbua Shuiying, Cinnabar, let out a loud cry. Its wings started flapping, causing countless red streams of air to spread out in all directions. Withdraw. This phenomenon of cinnabar merged back into Dongbua Shuiying's body. At the center of Dongbua Shuiying's brows, a fiery red cinnabar imprint was condensed. When Dongbua Shuiying opened his eyes, this imprint gradually entered the depths of his skin. I've finally cultivated Cinnabar's inheritance to the pinnacle of the Unity realm. I finally dug out all of Cinnabar's potential. Dongbua Shuiying revealed a smile. Next, I can change the core of Cinnabar and transform it. Chapter 905. Dongbua Shuiying was clear that with his attainments in the Tao of Mirage, and the Cinnabar inheritance, created by a senior, he could easily cultivate to the 6th transformation realm of Cinnabar. Even though he spent more than 5 million years, he had merely used this little bit of time to push another system to the 5th level Star Pagoda strength. To cultivators with eternal lifespans, this bit of time was not worth mentioning. It will be harder to improve it from now on, Dongbua Shuiying thought. Stepping from the Unity realm to the Primal Chaos realm was an extremely difficult hurdle. Even the Voidwalker system and the Tao of Mirage, which he had the most hope of cultivating, would take a very long time, much less the Cinnabar inheritance. He could only temporarily alter the structure of the inner illusory realm of Cinnabar. It would be a huge success if he could slightly improve Cinnabar's strength to the 6th floor of Star Tower. Of course, Dongbua Shuiying's mood remained good, because he had achieved his goal of choosing this ancient cultivation inheritance. After reaching the 6th transformation of Cinnabar, the strength of his soul was 3 times stronger than before he became an ancient cultivator. If he were to release the Sky Punishment Edge, he could release a total of 10 blades. At the same moment when Dongbua Shuiying cultivated the Cinnabar inheritance to the 6th transformation realm, at another location in the myriad ancient sacred world, it was extremely far away from the Greenpung sect. The distance between them was equivalent to half the myriad ancient sacred world. There was a towering black palace high above the cloud layer. This black palace spanned 500,000 kilometers and had exquisite golden carvings on its surface. There were many guards and servants within the palace. All of them were incomparably obedient and solemn. Below this black palace above the cloud layer, there was a city that occupied an area of more than 50 million kilometers. Countless cultivators lived within the city. This place was incomparably peaceful, and no devils dared to offend this place. Because this city was called the Black Emperor City, the palace above the cloud layer was called the Black Emperor Palace. Its creator was a legendary existence, the Black Emperor. Black Emperor was a famous primal chaos giant during the primitive ancient sacred world era. It was said that he and Jiezu had been best friends since they were young. He had once fought with the true body of a cosmos god and easily escaped. His strength was unquestionably at the 9th level Star Pagoda. After receiving an invitation from his good friend Jiezu, he settled down in the territory of Jiezu, in the myriad ancient sacred world. However, he was not a devour-type cultivator, but an ancient cultivator. Therefore, the Black Emperor City he created forbade those devils from eating and killing wantonly. Phew. Deep within the Black Emperor Palace, a man covered in scales sat cross-legged. He also had a long dragon-like tail that coiled around most of the hall. There were 4 auras above the man's head. There was a scarlet red, a dark green, a dazzling white, and a dark black aura circling above his head. Only the dark black aura was somewhat chaotic and unstable. The man slowly opened his eyes, and the 4 auras above his head quickly merged into his body. I've already succeeded in the other 3 inheritances during the primitive ancient sacred world era. Only this final inheritance has yet to be completed. The man stood up. The scales on his body were also very beautiful. His eyes had a pair of vertical pupils. At that time, I called myself the Black Emperor. I hoped that I would be able to master this last inheritance. How long has it been? I'm always lacking in the final step. The other 3 inheritances would interfere with it. The Black Emperor sighed. If he did not cultivate the other 3 inheritances, it would naturally be easy for him to cultivate just one. But to cultivate the other 4 inheritances, the final inheritance would be the most interfered with. As long as I succeed, The 4 great inheritances will perfectly fuse into one, just like how the cosmos revolves. The Black Emperor thought, by then I'll be a cosmos god. But this final step has stalled me for so long. Unless I've chosen the wrong path in the past. He was too ambitious. That time, Jiezu was comparable to him. Jiezu chose the path of specialization. The Devour class system was not strong at the same level, but Jiezu cultivated it to his current stage. And he pursued the pinnacle. He cultivated 4 complementary inheritances at the same time. When he was at the Origin Birth Realm, he could already kill Unity Realm experts. And when he was at the Unity Realm, he had the strength of the 7th floor of Star Tower. At the Primal Chaos Realm, he had the strength of the 9th level Star Pagoda. In the future, when he became a cosmos god, his strength would definitely be extraordinary. It's a pity he was stuck at this stage. Stepping into the cosmos god realm from the Primal Chaos realm was the final breakthrough, and the hardest step. Even though he was slightly vexed, the Black Emperor was relatively calm. After all, he was stuck at a bottleneck, and he was used to it. Amen. The Black Emperor suddenly felt something. He turned towards a direction. There is actually a young fellow who cultivates the Cinnabar inheritance. He has already cultivated to the 6 transformations of Cinnabar. The Cinnabar inheritance was only spread to the 8 transformations in the outside world. But in reality, the Black Emperor was clear. There were 9 transformations in the Cinnabar inheritance. It was just that for the sake of keeping it a secret, he did not easily spread it out. He cultivated the 4 great inheritances, and the Cinnabar inheritance was one of them. He had long cultivated it to large success. How rare. The Black Emperor revealed a grin. There is another young fellow in my lineage? Let's go and see who he is and how his potential is. South, the Black Emperor immediately left the palace. He tore a spatial passage in the void. The Black Emperor traveled at an extremely fast speed through the time-space passage. He was much faster than Ancestor Devil and the others. Just 30,000 years or so, he had traversed through more than half the myriad ancient sacred world, and arrived outside the Greenpung sect. In midair, the Black Emperor was wearing a black robe. His robe was fluttering. He was looking at the Greenpung sect from afar. I can clearly sense that the person who cultivates the Cinnabar inheritance is within the Greenpung sect. The Black Emperor revealed a look of bewilderment. But why can't I sense him? How could a Unity Realm brat avoid my detection? But he did not know. Currently, Dongbua Shui Ying had a treasure bestowed by Forefather Tianyu. The techniques executed by a cosmos god, who comprehended the laws and profound mysteries, were profound and unfathomable. The Black Emperor could hardly see through them. He had relied on the senses from the inheritance to discover Dongbua Shui Ying. The Black Emperor waved his hand. So, a Unity Realm expert from the Greenpung sect was directly teleported in front of the Black Emperor. At this moment, the eyes of this expert were in a daze. Who is the strongest expert in your Greenpung sect? The Black Emperor asked. Taoist Elder. This expert answered numbly. The biggest cavern dwelling in your sect is the cavern dwelling of the Taoist Elder? The Black Emperor continued asking. Yes. What is his name? I don't know. The Black Emperor no longer asked. He simply waved his hand and threw this expert back. That expert regained consciousness in a daze. He did not know what had happened. Taoist Elder? The Black Emperor immediately began investigating through the intelligence system under Jiezu. With his identity, he could borrow the intelligence system under Jiezu. Very soon, he obtained a piece of information, of which there was a time when Dongbua Shui Ying used the Black Gourd Fireball to frighten the entire Greenpung sect. Jiezu had already ascertained the identity of Dongbua Shui Ying. Dongbua Shui Ying? He is from the Great Void Heaven Temple. The Black Emperor revealed a grin. Who would have thought that the 3rd descendant of my lineage is actually a disciple from the Great Void Heaven Temple? In his lineage, there were very few who had the chance to obtain the inheritance. To cultivate to the pinnacle of the Unity Realm, the Black Emperor, including Dongbua Shui Ying, only had 3. Let's take a good look. Let's see how far he can cultivate, and if he is qualified to obtain the other 3 inheritances. The Black Emperor took a step and arrived at a distant mountain peak. A wooden house appeared on the mountain peak. The Black Emperor was cultivating here. None of the Green Peng sect members, including Dongbua Shuiying, were able to detect the presence of the Black Emperor. To an old fellow like the Black Emperor, who had lived for too long, it was too lonely. That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.